All right, we are live. Let me just double check that everything is working. As usual. Hello, everyone. How is everybody doing? We'll get going here. Let me know how the audio is. Let me know how the video is. If anything is weird, you guys are the ones I rely on for that. Oh, and of course, yeah, we started off with the resolution wrong. So, give me 1 second. Okay, I've returned. So, today what we're going to do for this Sunday live stream is we are going to talk about Project Red, and which is the Zero, and get a little bit into some of the fallout from that because it's now released. And then what we'll do after that is we will bring on Mad Economist, otherwise known as Blaine, to have further discussion on various different topics. And so we'll get into that stuff then. But just before I get going here, if you guys want the full review of the Project Red, that's already up on the channel in video form. But also, I want to draw your attention to the forum thread, which is here. If you guys are looking for the measurements of Project Red, I've put together, a full forum thread that's linked in the description here. And this contains all of the data, including distortion plots. I used a bunch of different targets here. So, if you guys want to check that out, or see how it is relative to a bunch of different targets that I didn't show in the video, that can be found here. And then in addition, some of the effects of tips and tip rolling, that's all here as well. So if you guys, if you're looking for more info, that's where that is. And as usual, if you guys want to see written coverage of various different things, that's up on headphones.com on the audio files. Definitely check that stuff out. I think with this product in particular, we will most likely be getting some written reviews of it, or at least one written review. I know FC Construct is working on one right now. Not sure when that's going to be live, but check out the audio files if you're interested in that, or at least just a different perspective from the one that I've given. So without any further ado on that stuff, let me dive into some of the conversation around Project Red, and I think the first thing I want to do here is sort of take the L on being at least somewhat responsible for the Project Red hype train. Effectively, some folks I think some folks are a little bit disappointed that Project Red is just it's treated as just a retune of the Zero, right? And the Zero came out last year. Now, leaving aside for a moment the stuff that, wait, can you guys still see okay? Did the stream die? Because it died on my end. I'm just gonna proceed as if it's all good. But leaving aside for a moment that Crinacle actually did do some changes to the drivers themselves, or basically not the drivers themselves, but to what's going on from the Zero to the Red, so the implementation, yielding lower distortion. But it is still a 2-driver configuration, essentially. And so I get the response that, oh, this is just a retune of the previous Zero. It's the IEF version of the of the Zero, and that's effectively what it is, I think, in practice for the way that this is for people. Blaine is John Cena confirmed. Yes. All right. As long as the stream is actually working for you guys, like, you have to let me know if it's not, because on my screen it says that it's frozen. So joy. So here's the thing. Here's the perspective I kind of want to communicate on this topic. And it is something that I think we need to work on, which is that, we all knew what this was. I mean, not all of us, but many of us knew what this was. Many on our team, and then also other reviewers who went to shows, Can Jams and so forth. We knew what this was. We knew it was essentially the same shell, the same driver configuration, and we didn't necessarily know what the price point was, but we had a pretty good idea. And so, for us, the excitement or the hype around this product, at least in my case, right, I can only really speak for myself here, was very much couched in the recognition of what this product was going to be, that it was going to be an entry-level product, that it was not going to be, a $300, $200, kind of thing that was meant to compete with the Kilobuck stuff, etc. Which is, I think, what people were hoping for. I think that's what people wanted. And so, because we're not able to express what the price point is or what we think it is. In fact, I even got in trouble for this, for kind of leaking it early, what it was, to Sean Olive when I was having dialogue with him on Twitter. Some folks in the chat already know about that. So for people who are following this really closely, it shouldn't have come as a surprise, I suppose. But I can't expect that people would have had that, that sort of perspective and that understanding of what it was. So, for me, it's a signal that, the fact that the reaction is the way that it was, or that it continues to be, to me, it's a signal that we need to, on the media side of things here, we need to be a little bit more cognizant of, what the rest of the community isn't privy to, the information that the rest of the community isn't necessarily, aware of. Listener, you busy? But, I see here in the comments someone saying Red ended up being pretty much exactly what I expected. I was surprised that some people expected so much more. That's what I'm talking about. That if you were following this closely, there were all the signs that this was going to be a retune of the Zero, right? But I don't begrudge anybody for not knowing that. I don't think we can, right? And so, it's definitely an L for us on the media side to be overly excited for something that really should be, thought of with the asterisk, for what it is, right? And I think with our expectations for what this was going to be, it absolutely met them, right? I mean, the Red is exactly what we thought it was, what we sort of expected it to be. And based on the impressions that we heard at various shows, at Can Jams and things like that, the end result is exactly what we kind of wanted from that, right? So the fact that it, there was all this hype behind it, and, that the rest of the community sort of got these lofty expectations, and the fact that, those expectations were not met doesn't mean that, for us who were kind of like, responsible for some of that hype, doesn't mean that it didn't meet ours, and it certainly met mine. I'll just, because I can only really speak for myself here, and knowing that DMS and Golden there at Munich High End right now, and many of them have sort of heard it there as well. I have every understanding that it met their expectations as well. Now, for me, when I sort of talk about why this is such an important product, yes, it's important because I think it does dominate the sub $100 price mark to a certain extent. Dominate's a strong word, but it's at least the default IEM at around $55, I think, at this point. And there are other IEMs under $100 that maybe compete with it, but also kind of trounce the the sub $100 products from, even a year ago. Right. So, so I think we have what people in, looking at that segment of the IEM market, I think we have, what people should expect there as well. In the sense that we have a default to go to. And I think that is the Red. And certainly more so than the Zero, although this is why this is such an important product to me, It's that, you know, it's now a an easy way for people. It's an easy and cheap way for people to um, get a chance to hear some of these tunings in practice, whether we're talking IEF or whether we're talking Harman IE. And I know that there's all that stuff about, like, you know, it doesn't match above 90%, you know, uh, on PPR, but it's effectively Harman. I mean, and certainly it is more likely to be preferred based on the statistical model than the red, and almost everybody I know who's heard it, who's heard both, prefers the red. In fact, every single person I know has preferred the red. And so to me, it's like that's why this is such an important product. And I tried to make that clear in the video that, like, it's not important because it trounces, you know, $1,000 stuff, right? It's not that. It's really what this means for the industry moving forward. And I think what I would love to see, and I think maybe others as well, is this kind of comparison happening, you know, at various different price points. Well, regardless of the price point, let's just say whatever it costs to make something, you know, excellent. You know, an excellent version of a more excellent version of the zero versus a more excellent version of the red, I think would be sort of a continuation of that, and I think fantastic to see. So so that's really kind of all I wanted to get off my chest with this, is to talk a little bit about, you know, what I think we need to do better on the media side of things, and then also, and I don't mean just, you know, to apply to this particular instance, because I think it happens a lot, just in general, where we are sort of behind the curtain on certain things, and we have to remember that, you know, this isn't stuff that everybody gets a chance to see or gets a chance to know about. And so that's really, you know, the point here. But also to make sure that we don't overhype things in general, I think. You know, in a way, I feel a little bit bad for Crinacle, given how this has turned out, given what people's expectations were. But at the same time, you know, I can't really feel that bad, because there's no way, you know, these aren't selling like crazy. So I think it's still a very successful launch for him. It's just that in the vocal community, people had expectations of something different. But yeah, I mean, that's there's a bigger conversation here to be had about, like, what it means to be in kind of like media in general around any subculture like this, where new products come out, and in order for that thing, whatever you know, media piece that you're making, to get attention, it needs to be something that, you know, you get excited about. And so part of that excitement is like, it's almost like a requirement in this space. But I think we can counteract that a little bit. I think it's our responsibility to be a little bit more measured with our hype, especially from audio shows where we don't have that much time with the product, right? So it's more like we're kind of wrapped up in the excitement of the moment, and I think that's certainly happened with Project Red. So now I think what we can do is I'll dive into the chat, we'll field some questions about the Red, but also just in general, and then we'll have Matt Economist join us in a little bit. I think in about 15 minutes. So okay, diving into the chat now. Does this make the zero obsolete? Will they stop selling? No, because and I really hope they don't stop selling it, because I think more people need to know about this difference, right? More people need to, you know, understand what's going on here, and I think if they were to stop selling the red, or sorry, the regular zero, that would limit that understanding. So I hope they continue with that. I'm not sure what the numbers are for the various different runs on those products. Oh, there is something else to talk about with the red, and it has to do with the measurements that and has to do with all the different measurements that people are doing of these. Maya actually discovered something very interesting, and maybe we can get into that in a little bit here once Matt Economist joins. But I really hope they if they're getting close to the end of that run, you know, I really hope they continue. Let's see. But does the red still need EQ? No, I wouldn't say the red really needs EQ. I mean, I tend to think with all of this stuff, you can improve things with EQ, yeah. But does it need it? No, I don't think it needs it. There's nothing, major glaring and out of whack, I would suggest the original zero needs EQ, but that's because of sort of how I feel about Harman IE. The lighting in here is really weird today. It's like, I have a soft light here and a hard light there, and it's like glaring. I also want to raise the topic of just collabs in general. I think we can talk about that a little bit too. Have you had a chance to compare the red to the Hexa in a bit more detail? That was kind of the key comparison that I was focusing on, because, I mean, they're from the same company, and I think, at least in my opinion, the Hexa is kind of like one of the standouts in that price range. Gosh, is this even... I'm just dropping things at this point. Heard red in Munich 2, and I prefer it to the zero. Yeah. So to get back to the Hexa, I find the Hexa to be a little bit more clarity focused. It doesn't have quite the same bass response, or at least it doesn't perceptually have the same kind of bass that I like from the red. The Hexa, I find it to be a little bit more detailed as well, a little bit better at that sort of like incisiveness, whatever we want to call that. But there are elements of the Hexa that I'm also not too keen on. I do find the Hexa to have just a little bit of glare there in the upper mids as well. So, for me, you guys know kind of my preferences with this stuff. I prefer to be a little bit less, ear gain there, which is kind of what's great about the red to begin with. But, the Hexa is one where, depending on the person, I could see it being preferred. Grin is crying himself to sleep on a bed of cash. Yeah, exactly. Let's continue. From VSG here. There's another thing to consider. Most reviewers can't experience every single product out there, so it can be easy to hype up Project Red with a limited info on what else is out there. Yeah, I wanted to talk a bit about that as well. So that's true, but we do also get a lot of stuff in that we don't cover, just because, but if we were to, like, there's no way we can focus on every single product that comes out, especially in the IEM space. We're trying to do more. That's what the shorts from FC Construct are doing, and I think Precog's gonna be doing shorts as well, because it's a good format for covering a lot of them. But the reality is that as a media channel, right, we have to kind of prioritize things that we expect are going to be of interest to the community, and there's a lot of stuff that, even if it's good, it's just not. I think the exception to that is if there's something that we come across that we discover that we think is amazing, who cares about whether or not the community is interested in it? We'll make the community interested in it, or we'll try to, at least, right? But in general, I think I think it's tough to produce a video on every single product that comes out, and so because of that, it might seem like there are a lot more gaps than there actually are, but there are also definitely gaps for the various people. Like, I certainly can't expect Chrono or Golden to have heard as many of the IEMs, or the same IEMs, right, as one another, or as me, or as Crinacle, right? Like, I definitely haven't heard as many as Crinacle has. Precog Vision and FC Construct have probably heard, definitely heard more than I have as well. So that's definitely true. Blaine, some sort of hi-fi mans. If you have multiple hi-fi man headphones, does it become hi-fi men? Yeah, out of curiosity, which headphones is the presenter using? This is the HE560. I believe it's the V4 from Adorama. You can only really get the used one now, I think. But this is I'm doing an upcoming video on this compared to the Sundara. Let's continue. I thought about something. Many people view the hobby as an endless stair climb towards audio heaven. I view it more as a train ride. You decide which station to jump on and off. Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. Especially, I mean, this is what Precog said as well. Like, price is mostly just a number. That's, yeah, I kind of agree with that. Sorry, that's there. It'd be a miracle to expect everyone to have heard everything, but the context gets put under the microscope all the more when it's a collab. Yeah. I think it's worth having some discussion on collabs in general, what that or just like the concept behind that. There is a certain way that they get done, but that doesn't mean that it always needs to be done that way. And I get that there's definitely collab fatigue right now. It feels like, because they're just all over the place. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit, about collabs in general. There was something from Super. Why are you still scrolling a list of JPEGs of graphs, dude? We're working on something, all right? It's not ready yet. Actually, some folks from Discord already know about that. Hi-fi people. All right, let's continue here. Oh, Crinacle is in the chat. No, I didn't say what it was, Blaine. I said stuff's being worked on to help with that. That's already common knowledge. What do you think would be the next step up from these or the Hexa? Yeah, I think this is where things get tricky, because if you do really want to step up, I'm gonna say go straight to the Dusk, or go, do new SA6, depending on what kind of sound signature you like. Although I don't know where they're at with the SA6 Mark IIs. I haven't tried the SA6 Mark IIs. Yeah, I think it's like there's a bit of no man's land now, because there's products like the Red and the Hexa at the budget, and probably to a certain extent that cadenza. I think we need to I need to get that one in, maybe do something on that one, because everybody in Chrono's video seemed to prefer that one, and so I'm very curious about it. So there's other ones too, like the Kiwiers Orchestra Lite and stuff like that. I have not tried that one yet, but I know FC Construct has. Or maybe it's Precog who has. I'm not sure. But one of us has. Credenza. See, I found the Cadenza 12 to be interesting. But it's at a price point that's like so inaccessible, so that's tough. Man, weird stuff is happening with my connection to YouTube right now, so I hope it's all good. Dusk 2, Blessing 3. Well, we'll see what happens with that stuff. I think it is a perfectly reasonable question to ask whether you should go with the Dusk or the Blessing 3. I don't think that those are. I think there's a clear winner, basically. In my opinion, influencers should work towards establishing their own brands, co-branding with other manufacturers, and giving up revenue. Seems not necessary, given how chi-fi manufacturing seems to work. Yeah, maybe this is the next discussion we can have here. I think I see from Jamie as well. a similar topic. Yeah. I do think it has an effect. Like if you have, if you get a royalty from it, I do think there's some effect on, what you do in the future if you are reviewing, similarly priced products. I think Crinacle has walked the line on this appropriately, where he's basically said, we can't, he said he can't, mention it or review it or any of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like, the critique of, yeah, but doesn't that like have an effect on the way you view other products within that same, cluster or landscape? So really, I think that's where the question is, like, does it influence you to a degree where you're going to say something is bad, at a given price point because you have a thing there that you think is better? I mean, if you wouldn't make something that you think is bad, presumably. So Crinacle says, I disagree with influencers making their own brands. Collabing is really a gray area by itself, but there is still the flexibility of critiquing the collabed brands themselves. I'm not sure what you mean there, Blaine. Let me just grab Blaine here for a second. 1 second. Here, look at the graphs. Let's see if I can make this work.
Resolve has started a call.
Resolve has started a call.
I should probably turn on my video, shouldn't I?
Yes. You are now live, just so you know.
Bring myself echo, and that's eerie.
Oh, because you have the stream open. Yes.
I mean, I could use this as an opportunity to just cause trouble.
That's true. Okay.
I don't think you're right about people wouldn't make stuff they don't think is good, though.
In the collab space?
Yeah.
Well, let's get into that, but let me just set this up so that I have the camera in the right spot. All right.
I'm gonna do my best to move the camera around to make your life hard. Oh, my levels are a lot higher. That's a problem.
Your levels are higher?
Yeah, I can crank myself down.
Okay. I also have controls here, so I can do that.
Is that any better?
Now I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
It's really quiet now.
Okay, well maybe you need to use your mixer.
1 second. I need to get the right thing here. We're all the problems. 1 second.
This is what happens when I'm just like, hey, put me on the show, Chief.
There we go. All right, now it's working. A wild Blaine appears. Just barely.
Is that just the corner of me?
Yes.
All
right. If there were an easier way to do this, well, there probably is an easier way to do this, and I'm just like not doing it well enough. Okay. I can turn you down a little bit if you're too loud.
I should fix my lighting. I can't, but I should.
It's good. It's good. All right. Let's get back to the chat here. Guys, how's Blaine's audio? Blaine, say things.
Hello, it's me, Blaine. I'm talking.
All right. If someone raises an issue about it, we'll change it. Okay. Making things that we'll talk about the collabs, but also making things that people don't necessarily think is.
Blaine looks like
good.
Linus. That's an insult to Linus.
Blainus Sebastian. Yeah. So you just said that you think that people would make things that they don't necessarily think is good. I am inclined to agree in the case of manufacture, like just people making products, right? But when it comes to collabs, I think you have situations like like the zero, this one here, right? I think I mean, this is one that I think Crinacle probably expected to that it would sell, even though I think he would rather listen to something like the Red. So I think there are situations like that where he made something that he thought was good for the market, or that the market might want. Certainly a particular crowd might want, even though he prefers this thing here. But I don't think he's going to make something that he thinks is outright bad. You know,
I don't think that Crin would. I don't
yeah,
think that Crin would. I think it depends on how you're involved in things, but I definitely think that there are influencers who would be willing to co-brand products that they're not fond of. And there's
right.
definitely designers who very regularly are making products for, co-branding, which they're not super happy with. It's a job, right?
For sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's definitely. Sorry, someone's saying am I clipping or is Blaine clipping?
I might be clipping.
You sound perfectly fine on my end. Um,
Well, if I sound fine on your end, I should sound fine
then
on
you
their
should
end
be. Yeah,
because
exactly. So
because
maybe it's
you
me.
are their end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This section is sponsored by Raycon.
I was clipping a bit earlier.
Okay. Okay. Then we're good. What were we talking about? Yeah. I think that there are also definitely like collabs that exist between brands where there was a reason to make it a certain way, even though they probably knew that it wasn't going to be good. But I mean, like, people who are doing the kind of thing that I think Crin is doing. I think the intention with a lot of those, or at least the majority of cases, is for them to give the market a sense of a tuning that they enjoy. Um, you know, like their specific type of tuning, or at least in a product that is they can get it close.
I mean, from my point of view, isn't it more just like saying, this is a sound I like, I'm going to put my stamp on it. I say this is presumably, I think this is good, and this is a good value, right, for you.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that.
kind of
That's
what
how
I'm
I
thinking.
perceived Grin.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. Yeah. Now, in the video on the Red, I mentioned that I mean we've talked about the reviewer targets thing in the last live stream that we did, but from my perspective, this is really where you do see the benefit of individual targets, because it's so that people can get a sense of a tuning that a particular reviewer or influencer likes. So from my perspective, there's no issue with that, right?
Mhm.
It's just in the data representation aspect of it that you shouldn't be using individual targets, and we need to. I mean, I recognize that we have some of that too, right? Like, we need to fix some of those issues eventually. But I wanted to get your take. I mean, maybe we can just you've been observing the Project Red stuff from a
Mhm.
distance a little bit, and I want to get your sort of third party take on the whole thing, but also the the idea of having these two one IEF, one Harman.
I mean, I think that's a very good idea. Like, in general, something that I'm kind of sad of in this community is that so many brands are so set on having uh, one target or one goal, when we have a pretty good body of evidence that there is pretty meaningful segmentation of what listeners prefer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you make, let's say that you had a firm that perfectly matches, Shankar's, preferences, or your preferences or my preferences, that's not going to match, we know at minimum that's not going to match like 40% of the population. It's probably not going to match more like 80% if
Mm-hmm.
you get fine grained. So I think it's a really good thing to have these products that are the same price, that have the same construction, that aren't that are economizing on these other features, where they're delivering a sound that might be better for some people. I think it'd be more preferable if they were able to adjust them individually, right? Like, I think that adjustable headphones are something that really, and it's one of the reasons I'm happy about the little bass adapter thing, even though I had
Oh yeah.
some so-so opinions in chat. But um people should really be able to get something that matches what they want. And for a lot of cases, the ergonomics of something might work, the price point of something might work, but the tuning that was selected just isn't right. And for you, right? So I think that it's quite a good thing. Like I
Mhm.
really would like to see Sennheiser do this. I would like to see a lot of the big companies do this.
This is the well, yeah. There's also like I'm just thinking of when Dr. Olive mentioned, the personalization aspect and how that's like a key thing. I think that fits with that as well. That if you want better sound, really what you want is more personalized sound, not necessarily closer to a line on a graph. Um,
Well, and the personalized sound you would want can be mapped to a line on a graph, like
a
machine.
line on a graph, but like that's not necessarily the 60 whatever percent, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, yeah. What's your take on the backlash to Project Red? The that now, I mean, maybe you haven't seen it, but
Yeah, so pretend for a moment that I never read things that IEM people say. Like that I
okay,
am physically incapable of reading what IEM people say.
right. So it's not technically backlash. It's more that there was a lot of hype, and people had the
Mm.
expectation that it was going to be like basically a flagship killer that would come out at around the price of like the Dusk, or like $200 $300, something like that. And
So they
then
just wanted Dusk too.
yeah, I think so. And then the critique is that it's just a retune of an existing product that's a large portion of the more enthusiast focused community is less interested in. Now, I just want to full cards on the table with that one. I kind of think it's almost like people are looking for a reason to spend $200 $300, because that's what they have in their mind is like uh, a meaningful spend on a pair of headphones. But yeah, I want to get your take just in general on that critique.
Well, I think that it's absolutely true that, and this may be an unpopular take with the audience, but there's a very strong tendency of people to select a price point first and then look for a headphone that justifies
That's what
it.
yeah, that's what I'm
Um,
thinking.
so
Yeah, not
I
necessarily
can,
the no the price to performance. There's no
well, I mean, like the thing is, imagine that Crin released this red at $300. Would it be awful? No.
no. Just
Like,
it
and
wouldn't
people
have
might have been happier. I mean, really, what we're saying is, Brian, you should have priced it higher. What are you doing?
Wow, did you just dox him? The
Did I
problem is
dox
you
him?
yeah you couldn't use the same shell though. You'd have to do a slightly different shell.
I don't know. Maybe you just make it red, all red.
It's red, and then because it's red, you charge an extra $200 or whatever.
Yeah, well, you could do it urushi. That's a blast from the past, right?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, dude, that's what the TH900 was. It's this fancy Japanese lacquer.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, no, it's oh man, I miss Lachlan. He had this great video where he was making fun of fancy audiophile terms, particularly for the Japanese hi-fi stuff, where he
Yeah.
just said urushi over and over again. It was so funny.
I
Um,
I like this comment. Truthier Zero Redder. Next up, Project Gold. I was thinking he could do Project Green. Like dollar bills.
I mean, but yeah, no, I mean, like the backlash there basically seems like people are mad that they wanted to spend more money, which my immediate response is, okay, well, we can release a 6 times as expensive version for you.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could, right? Like you
Yeah.
could make an Urushi AM. You could make something really fancy. Honestly, I think it'd be kind of neat. Um,
I I've had the opinion that I mean, there are many that are like that already, where it's like, well, yeah, I don't want to put any particular brand on blast, but I think that that's happening, regularly already. That there's a fancy thing on the shell, and therefore it commands attention at a high price tag.
Red Ultra, 6 different impedance adapters.
Yeah,
I think Jamie's right in the comments. Side Salad Audio, when things are priced lower, people try to look for more points to criticize.
yeah, yeah, and you're because you're also exposing it to a wider audience. Well, you're exposing it to a audience of an increased scrutiny, essentially, as you're saying.
Okay,
Um,
so VSG says the backlash is people thought there was something very different from what's out there.
from what's out there, I don't know about that. I mean, the graphs were leaked not even leaked. I think he posted the graphs of Project Red like quite a bit ago, and there was a lot of hype around those graphs, and those were similar already. Like people, nobody should have been surprised by the tuning, is what I'm saying. At least for those who were paying attention, and that wasn't that different from what already existed, right? But unless your point is that specifically in contrast with the zero, because that already existed.
Yeah, I mean, like, also there's a question of how different can you get? You know, like how
Well,
different can you really get for an IEM?
the one thing that I'm thinking about with this is that, and maybe I mean Crinacle's in the chat, maybe he can weigh in on this. But if you have, there was the pre 2023 IEF target, right, and that's kind of what Project Red is going for. But just before the release of this, or not that long ago, he released an update to IEF, and it may have been that people wanted it to be closer to that. I don't know if that's in the calculus of people's brains when they're thinking about this stuff, but in a way, that would have been a little bit different if it was based on 2023 IEF, which, by the way, we should probably talk about that. What are your thoughts on 2020? I don't want to throw you on blast, but if you don't want to talk about
So
it yet.
2023 IEF is he used DF and he gives people the twiddly knobs for slope and for the base shelf.
It is so it's, from my understanding, a listener actually has more info on this than I do.
Yeah, but listener is like at the beach or something.
Yeah. So basically, think of it like it's kind of closer to like an actual DF for the ear gain, but then compared to the previous IEF, but then with a flat line that's tilted upwards for the bass. That's sort of what it looks like. I can actually show it to you if. Hold on a second, guys. I will pop it on the stream if I can. There we go.
So, and is that different to the customized diffuse field target that he has on the site right now, or is that the one that you're talking about?
I'm just showing it on the stream right now.
Oh, okay.
Or I will here in a second if I can get the actual thing there. Yeah. So this is. Well, I also put it in the video, right?
400 hertz weirdness, Joel.
So the thing is, if you look at the way that this stuff measures on the 5128, which is here, that whole section is for the FR of the headphones is lower than the target there. Mm-hmm. And with the with IEF neutral, which is on Gross, which is something that I don't think you should do, you have a target to accommodate that gap, essentially. That's what I interpret it as. I don't know if that's exactly the intention, but it's a way to sort of accommodate some of the shortcomings there of 711 in the lower frequencies. Crinacle says 5128 DF minus 0.8 dB per octave with Harman 3K cut.
Man, if he's going to be in our chat, he should just be on the show.
I think he's in Germany, though.
I don't care.
Well, I don't know if he has that.
That sounds like a Crin problem.
Yeah.
Put him on blast.
Get in our convo. And you can talk about it. But do you see what I'm pointing out here?
It says I can hop on Discord now if you want. Hell yeah.
Okay, hop on. Hold on a second, guys. This is the one. Oh,
I'm a big believer in guest starring.
Get your camera back.
My camera back?
There. Oh no, it did. It's good.
Am I here?
Yeah, you're here. You're good.
Am I live?
We are live. That's just what this show has turned into, is just us gauging from the chat whether or not things are working.
Well, isn't that always how it is with live? I mean, like...
Yeah, no, it is for sure. I mean, this is why, if we had someone actually as a producer, who would control all of this.
You're a producer.
Exactly. Yeah. This is the problem. Audio discussions don't work in Germany for some reason. No, I just sort of I was trying to be considerate if he didn't have the right internet or whatever, right? Like if he's traveling. But if he's available,
See, this is your problem. You're too considerate. You need to be more assertive
need
instead
one
of
more
considerate.
demanding.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Just reading a little further. So, well, yeah. To go back to that target that you just saw, what are your thoughts? I mean, it is, from my understanding, it's a way to sort of accommodate some of the differences that we see in the 5128. You're laughing. You're having a giggle.
Sorry, VSG got me. I need Crinacle to join with a fake German accent now. Sorry, that's what I was giggling at. No, I think that I mean, it's that we're all basically doing the same thing, right? Like every one of the groups of us who are trying to make a target for the 5128 are basically saying, okay, Harmon is clearly not wrong. Like that's tautological. We have a really big body of data. We have it
Well,
correlated with real human
to be clear,
preference.
the Harman research is not wrong. There may be issues with IEF. Sorry, with IE, Harman IE 2019.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, like when I
That's
say
the
Harmon
outlier.
is not wrong, I don't mean well, I mean,
Specific.
like by that logic, like Harmon, there are contradictory Harmon results, right? But the overall
Yeah.
research gives us a really robust result,
Yeah.
and everyone's up for that.
Yeah.
Um, but the like we all have a slightly different idea of how to implement it, and honestly, like I think that we're in a space where really would be interesting there is listening tests. Like, I would really like to compare Constantine's version, which is, to my understanding right now, just directly applying the over-ear 2018 filters, and I'm not sure about the in-ear stuff yet, to the DF versus ours, which is just a slope versus a slope plus a
Sorry.
notch, the ear gain.
Say the difference again for Constantine's, the over ear
So
filters
it's,
applied to DF.
yeah, so his is like, if you take the
Yeah.
delta of
Yeah, that's what we thought Harman was actually doing.
yeah, that's what Sean probably should have done. No
Yeah.
offense, Sean. Um, well, to be fair, what Sean was trying to do is not the same as what we are trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still not happy about it. Anyway, so that versus a continuous slope, which is something that I basically have championed as a default because it means that there are minimal for compensated results, it means that you are making very minimal adjustments to fine details.
Right.
And so that if someone has a preference which is more fine detail, they can still perceive it quite easily on that. And if you have ideally we would allow people to compensate to their own personal preferences here. And Crin seems to be kind of in the middle between those two things. And I think that those are all really reasonable. And I mean, all of them, if you plug them into a modified version of the Harman statistical model, I think would score pretty well. The question is really which one's preferable, and I think that's basically a question for testing. And I think it'd
Yeah.
be really interesting to do that as a listening test.
Yeah, that's why I'm hyped for this stuff.
Yeah.
But further, like, I mean, this is just in practice with these products, but also to test those different curves out. So
Yeah,
okay,
it's something where I'm actually really hoping that sometime in the near future we can maybe, and maybe we dragoon Jakob and he has some software for this.
Yeah.
I mean, like aimed, I think, slightly at B2B. We set up some online listening tests for this stuff.
Yeah,
See what we can get done. Have a control IRL test because we have enough people,
yeah,
and then I mean, hell, we can make a paper on it.
yeah. I think it's great. I'm just gonna bring Crin in here. 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm going to, while I get this organized, I'm gonna go back to the graphs. Oh, and then there's my face. Okay, 1 second. This may restart the call.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna add. Hold on a second. How do I add people to a call in Discord?
You have to create a group DM and then call.
Okay. Do you want
I
to
think
do that?
we have
I think we do. Yeah, I was just looking
Okay.
for that.
No, we have one with someone else, but we're not using that one.
Unless you can just add him to this one. I don't see why you couldn't. Oh, okay. We will. There we go. We're all here.
Well, we're not all here. Crin hasn't picked up yet.
Okay, but
Are
we're
you
here.
sure he was ready?
He messaged me
Oh,
saying where call. I think he's on his phone though.
hell yeah!
All right, let me pop this out. Now
You
you
left.
okay? Well, that
God
was so
damn,
much
that
for
was
that
stone
idea.
cold. That was stone cold.
That was enough of that. All right, let me just pop back to the Discord here. I'm
Grin?
telling, I'm telling you, man, we need.
Yes, I am here.
Welcome.
Holy sh! That's okay. Where's my phone? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. What are we talking about?
Well, at the moment we're talking about Project Red.
Perfect. Let me show.
Yeah. No, I mean that's why I brought you here.
Clearly,
All
yes.
right.
This is all part of the
Come.
conspiracy.
I'm ready for any nice things you want to say about it, bad things you want to say about it, criticisms,
Well,
praise, anything in between.
first of all, I want to ask you, Crinacle, how has Munich High End been?
Oh, it's great, but at the same time very different from CanJam because Munich High End is a combination of all things audio, which includes
Yeah.
like speakers and um, cables, which is something I'm not used to because
Turntable
it's so
cartridges.
turntable cartridges, stickers, cable risers,
Yeah.
everything from that world that I have never touched before. So I've pretty much limited myself to what is known as the headphone. Is it the headphone corner or is it the headphone world?
Right.
Yeah, so I just kind of hung around there with
Headphone containment zone.
exactly hung around my boys Douglas and Golden Sound Cameron, as well as your bosses,
Yeah.
the small brothers.
Mr. Pantera's there probably as well.
Oh yeah, Z as well, and we went around listening to some speakers on, and it's great stuff that were at the show that I would talk about in my eventual video
We
after I clear out my other show videos.
we won't spoil it here, but if you could give us just your favorite moment that you could think of that comes to mind. So just of the trip.
Corina,
Ah,
surprisingly Corina,
interesting.
like you know us subjectivists, we don't like the Dan Clark audio, deadness.
Yeah.
I didn't hear any of that in the Corina.
Well done.
But,
Well done to
yeah.
Dan.
It's nice. It's yeah. But more impressions upcoming. That's just a little teaser from that show.
Very cool. I'm very curious to hear that. Do you know if they use the AMTS thing on that as well?
Yes. Yes.
Aha.
So they use the AMTS and they actually don't use any passive electrical filters because it's an electrostatic and most capacitors and inductors at that size can't really handle that level of voltage.
All right.
Yeah, no, that would be very difficult.
Yeah.
So
So that's quite interesting. I was talking to Dan for quite a long time about all of this. We chatted for quite a long time. But yeah, okay, let's not go too far off topic. That's
No,
a
let's
different.
spoil all of his videos. Let's just take his content.
Well, I was more thinking because we've had that question mark about the AMTS and whether that has an effect on HPTF, variation.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if this also has it, that's why I'm curious to try it. Right. Maybe that.
I had a conversation with him and we had some theories and again not to spoil too much content from videos, but I think one of the theories is that some non-linearity and some distortion actually contributes to the perception of so-called technicalities. So when you have a system like a driver or a headphone that's essentially almost perfect from an objective standpoint, it sounds not great, if it makes sense.
No, I know, and this so I disagree with that take. And I think that there are enough counter examples there where we can draw on. There are definitely examples that you can point to as to, and so I perfectly understand why he has that take. But this is, I think there are also enough counter examples. Like for example, Odyssey's LCD 5 and LCD 4, that stuff. That's very low distortion, and it's also well received for these qualities. It's nonlinear in frequency response, or at least what we might consider there. And I think this is why I think that's really where that's the locus of technicalities still. But we can talk forever on that topic. To get back to the topic at hand, Red. Yeah.
First, buy Red obligatorily.
Well, even in Crin's
buy Red. I need to fund apparently my new $5,000 IEM, and then it needs a lot of R&D.
Right. I like how your Discord background is also red. I don't know if you can see it on the.
I like red. Red is a nice color, especially when matched with black. But
Yeah,
nowadays that gives off the gamer vibe, so I don't really like to show it off.
right. That's fair.
I don't know. You
Um,
seem like a gamer to me.
Oh, I wish. No time.
God, I
so
know that feel.
here's the question for you, Corinne, with Red. Um, how have you? How's the reception been for you? I mean, obviously, I've seen your Twitter post where you've talked about both. Well, yeah,
I yeah, so
the
I
general
think it's just
reception.
I think it's just management of expectations.
Mhm.
Sales wise, it is of course the best the best so far because it's based off of an already existing and very popular product. So from a sales standpoint, I have really no complaints. This is just more like why is everyone expecting this to be the next coming of Jesus kind of situation?
Oh, because we told
And
them it was apparently.
but to me it's very simple is that people like to make comparisons with the Hexa and I'm not gonna make comments on whether or not it's better than the Hexa, but I do have to point out that the Hexa is almost 50% more expensive. And if we're going by that logic, then I would just tell people to buy Dusk, even though you're asking for a $50 budget. Because if like where does it stop, right? Like, oh, you could just buy an $80 IEM, but then there's this $150 IEM that's better, but then there's a $150 IEM that's it just keeps rolling on. So it has to stop somewhere, right?
Hmm.
So my point is like at $50, what is the competition? Put the let's put the conversation there.
Right. Um,
Do you think that you would make like that you would have done well if you had made this same product and literally just upcharged it? Because like it seems like a lot of people wanted this to be more expensive
I
than it
I
was.
heavily okay, here's the thing. I heavily considered it, not out of pure maliciousness, but more like, okay, you know what, are people gonna accept this? Then I thought like, okay, what if I change the drivers like to an actually like more exotic one with more exotic materials? Do the same thing with the crossovers because clearly there's an improvement. Change the faceplate, change the resin material for the shells, increase QC. This increasing QC is going to be the most expensive part of this, and then probably charge like $200 for it. I think that would have been even better in terms of sales and in terms of overall profit, but at the same time, didn't feel very. I didn't feel like that was nice to do, if it makes sense. Yeah.
Uh,
Because like I can do this for $55. Why am I doing this for $200?
you don't need to do
Like
it for $200.
I don't have to do it. And
uh,
because I know it's a great product. I know I can do it for $55. I don't have to be like the other brands who are like, well, here's a better product. I'm going to charge 400% more for it. So I didn't do it clearly. Perhaps that was the wrong move.
And
I
they
don't
hate you
know.
for it. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, no, we're actually personally angry with you about that.
Oh dear.
No, no, no. I think that's there is also an element of like the loudest voices are the ones who probably also wanted a $200 or $300 thing, like we were talking about before.
I understand that point where it's like the people who are complaining the most aren't buying it, so I don't care. But at the same time, it still kind of stings where it's like I've done this and the criticisms aren't like, well, it's a terrible product. The criticisms is like it's not the best product ever. And I'm just scratching my head over it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who don't really seem to see the value in providing good options at the low end. I feel like
Yeah.
there's this weird response to the sort of chi-fi world where people have got really antagonistic to cheap stuff. Jamie was saying earlier that he perceives cheap stuff as having people try harder to find reasons to hate it.
Yeah.
So there is a great parallel with this in the real world, right? Where you have like let's say you're providing a service, the cheap clients are always the one asking for more, for more, for more. And the clients who are paying top dollar for your services usually are the chillest people around.
Mm.
Well, I mean, there's that meme that was going around on Twitter where it's like someone wires you $500 and is like, "Before I send you this money, I need you to understand that this is going to change both of our lives." And someone wires you $50,000 like, "Money
Yeah,
sent, thanks."
the parallels are there. Like I look, the same thing happens. Like I throw out the dusk, it kind of fulfills the same spot that it does at $300 that the red does at $50. and it still remains like that to this day, and I don't get a lot of complaints. I dropped the red, and immediately it's like, it's not the best thing ever. Fuck you.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is also a difference in that there is what would be like the Harmon equivalent to Dusk. It's not quite the regular Blessing 2, you know.
But isn't that the Dusk already? Because the Dusk doesn't really follow the Harmon. I mean, if you look on the
No,
graph,
no, no,
like
no.
the red and the
Right.
Dusk are kind of there.
I'm saying, there's the additional element of having, this testable thing now in two different products, that with the red and the regular zero, right? Where that doesn't really exist at other price
Oh.
tags, or at least I can't think of it.
No, yeah,
Maybe,
so that's the problem, right? Is that there's not really a passive Harmon tuned
yeah.
option. So
So maybe that's the
essentially,
next, we could do
if
this
you
Well, no,
want,
he
experiment at
already
a higher
said the
price
next gen
tag.
is the new Dusk. He already said
yeah,
that in
if
chat.
there's genuinely new like demand for like, oh, I want Harmon adherence at like $300, I can call up like some guys and try and get that project going. If that's like
But that
something
wouldn't be as
people want.
exciting. That would not be as exciting.
Yeah. See, no, everything is like not exciting anymore. That's another complaint. That's just like, oh, it's another retune of the zero. It's
Yeah,
not exciting. Like, come on, guys.
yeah, for sure. Um, so I mean, you've been thinking about, you know, as you were saying, the next, whatever the next thing is.
Mhm.
But do
I
you
mean,
think?
now it's an open secret, right? It's the
Yeah.
next thing is the new Dusk, and I'm still working on it. And I'm currently grappling with one question that I might post on Twitter now, or I can just ask you right now, but later. Yeah, please continue with your
Okay.
question.
Well, my question was going to be more along the lines of, what do you think of the idea of uh, collab fatigue? And do you think that that's something you're going to have to contend with? You know, if the
I
circle
think
goes
that's
in the other
genuinely a
direction.
yeah, I think that's genuinely a problem, but it's like a problem for like the 3 or 4 reviewers that are doing collabs now. It's like if the other reviewers keep like churning out collabs, it kind of dilutes the concept of a collaboration.
Hmm.
And the the reviewer that doesn't do as many collabs, me, kind of suffers for it. So yeah, I do get it because I'm kind of suffering from the effects of collab fatigue if you put it that way. Because I haven't released a collab in like almost a year,
But
and
don't
and
you have
already
like
people are
4 or
yeah,
5 in total?
in total. I mean, in total is yeah, the if you want to consider the Selnos Zero collab, sure, that's one. There's that the Zero as well, the Zero Red, um, the Dioko, the Eclipse, the Midnight, the Dusk, and the Dawn. That's 8. Yeah, that's 8.
8.
But
Wow.
it's like all spread out with throughout the entire price range.
And also over a longer period of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So because I was kind of the one who started it all, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your fault.
oh no.
Yeah,
I will end
So
it. I'll end
you
it by my own hands.
you need to then well, there's two things with that. One is that I think you probably also need to wait until the opportune moment to release the next collab, right? So that the collab fatigue
Hi.
is people are asking for another one rather than, oh, not another one, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I was at a point where people were asking for another one because it had genuinely been a long time since I had a collab.
well, no, we can tell
And
people are asking for one because they're so mad it's cheap.
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, but now there's the Dusk. So
Yeah.
anyone who wants to spend more money, I'm pretty sure the Dusk 2 is going to be another banger. It's just whether or not you guys are going to expect it to kill like $3,000. I mean, it probably will kill some $3,000 IEMs because
Yeah.
let's
Oh,
face it, some
bravo.
kilobuck stuff are just garbage, right?
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I think the original Dusk already does, as does the Blessing too.
Yeah.
So,
Honestly, at this point, I'm just kind of I think the best way that I can go move forward with this is just to do like stealth collabs in a similar vein as the Cell Note Zero, where I
mm,
just tune something and just let it rip. But
right.
the
Okay, well,
problem with that strat is that a lot of companies don't like that, or a lot of Chi-Fi. I mean, Chi-Fi is the most open with it, but in general, they're just like, we want your marketing boost. We see the value in your marketing. Whereas for me, it's like I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing on the tuning front. you can trust me, it will sell because it's a genuinely good product, and they'll still be like, yeah, but we want you to like announce it on day one.
I mean, that's the thing
So
is
it's
they want to put your name on the box, right? So that it
they do, yeah. So with the success of the Cellnos Zero, I want people, I hope more companies will be like, yeah, we can take a gamble on this thing that you won't be slapping your name on, because like I said, I genuinely think that I can make good product. It's just that, uh, yeah, who's gonna make it for me?
right, right. I mean, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, but like I think in many cases they'd probably care less about whether it's a genuinely great product and more that it has your clout thrown behind it.
No, as
Um,
in, I do get it from their perspective,
yeah.
because they're the ones who are putting up the risk of the R&D and that minimum order quantity and all that. So to them, it's like, well, we want to mitigate that risk by making it an actual collab right from the beginning. And it's great for the company, it's great for the brand, because some when I announce it's a collab, they get thousands of orders easily.
Right.
But on my end, it's all about yeah, like you said, the collab fatigue. People are thinking it's going to be a sellout product because, oh, I slapped my name on it, I get a profit out of it. Whereas to me,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, no, I genuinely want to make good IEMs and good headphones. Or headphones is a different topic altogether. But it's hard to it was hard to do that, the stealth collab thing. Uh, Linsol kind of took the risk with me on the Soundless Zero, and I hope that that would lead to more, but we'll see on that. And obviously, it being a stealth collab, I can't really say anything about any existing projects.
So you can't talk about the inevitable over-ear collab.
I mean, it's inevitable, but it's like who's going to be the one to make it? I don't know.
We got an interesting one in chat from Dong.
But first, I just want to say
Oh,
big thanks to TechMed Rainer Richter for the super chat there. I don't know if I didn't see a question there, but
aren't
go
we
ahead.
supposed to not encourage super chats because of the whole?
Yeah, I know. I know. I just see it's a sticker, so I
That's
just
true.
want to acknowledge it. So,
Oh
but
yeah, no,
yes,
it's very nice of them, but they should spend their money on lttstore.com instead. Oh wait, no, I don't
get
work
out of here.
there. um,
Sorry, go
so,
ahead.
but
Yeah.
Dong said another banger for big ear canal bros. I'm at my wit's end here. I think that implies that he hasn't been able to fit your prior IEMs. Any plans for something for
Yeah.
people who don't have the ear gains?
Okay, yeah. So one of the reasons why the nozzle for the Truth Gear Zero was so thick was because the full range driver is already 7.8 millimeters, and we don't want to have that big of a differential between the acoustic tubing and the
Mhm.
driver. So we can make it thinner, but that would also require a huge overhaul of everything else, because that would essentially make it a low pass effect,
Yep.
and treble would suffer, everything would suffer, and therefore, we might have to resort to putting a BA tweeter in there. Oh no, that's
Heaven forbid.
terrible. So
BA
I
timbre.
didn't want to. Yeah. So it's a balance of everything, and unfortunately, with the fact that we are using a 7.8 mm dynamic full range driver, means that the nozzle is unfortunately going to have to be that large. But we're working on it. We're working on trying to minimize the nozzle for future like V2 models, which shouldn't be hyped up too much, because it's just going to be like, hey, we made like aesthetic changes and you drop the nozzle size, and that's about it.
I actually didn't find the nozzle to be that really an issue at all on this one, but it's
Well,
crazy
yeah, but you have
because
a giant head.
I have a giant head. Yes. I mean,
Yes, we all have giant heads. We've done this bit before, but I'm just saying we got to have sympathy for the small people.
But the thing is, I can't handle the Helios, the Symphonium Helios, or the Soft Ears RSV,
Oh,
which is so it's like I think a lot of it has to do with also like kind of as well. I think it was FC Construct who mentioned this, but it's the angle of the insertion as well, and the way that all that fits. Anyways, um, I if I may, I had another question for you guys to do with Red.
sure.
Have you guys seen Amir's measurements?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that entire conversation. Yeah, I was following the entire conversation that you had with Maya, and I was
Yeah.
kind of like, you know what? I kind of agree that something's up with the 45 CA.
So this is where I ask our resident Madbot here. Yeah, what do you
Hold
think
on, I
about
just
that?
need to get a knife to
Let
commit harakiri.
let me just characterize the issue, right? So we have most people who are measuring these, like the reviewers who are measuring these, are measuring them on 711 clones, which are 0045 equivalents, and those you can tell because they have a couple of resonance in the treble. So far, only two of us have measured it on an RAO 402 high res, quote unquote, coupler, that being me and Amir. The difference, though, is that Amir's is from the 45CA, which, and so he uses the pinna, whereas I've used let's see if I can hold this up here. This, and so the hypothesis is that this difference of the way that the pinna actually screws into the coupler on the 45CA is causing it to be a bit of an outlier in the data, and because what it shows, and this is kind of ironic, I mean this whole thing is a little bit ironic, but what it shows is that the red actually matches closer to Harman for ear gain on his specific measurement, giving well, the way I think of it is it's sort of a misattribution potentially of Harman to the red, because of what that result shows. So it's like this is like in a way it's kind of like false validation, right? Because the whole point is that it is not Harman, whereas the 0 is.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get Blaine's sort of thoughts on that, if there's something to that, or basically what's going on there.
So now, obviously, one of the things that we always have to say when we're comparing graphs from different sources and different aspect ratios is that the human eye is really bad at interpolating data points on curves.
No, like this is
So-
actually like raw
No,
data
no.
overlaid on each other.
Right, but they're not
Well,
necessarily
yeah.
all normalized in the same spot, and it looks. I get what you're saying. That like you could, if you were to compensate it, maybe you would find something else.
Well, and just the differences in plotting can make a big difference in what we perceive, but the flip side is the overlay with the Harman target. While the sign illusion makes that not optimal, it's pretty clear that it's a bit different. I'm trying to find your
Yeah.
measurement. Do you have that in the description for this video? I can't see that because I have chat on.
My measurements are all up on the forum thread.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what
Bold of you
interesting
to
is
assume that I visit the forum.
It is in the description of this. It is in the description of this live stream.
Perfect.
I think one interesting thing is that on Amir's rig, the regular truth year 0 already measures with like 1 or 2 decibels above Harman in the ear gain region,
His
which
does,
was not the case. Yeah, his does, but it was not the case for anyone else, including mine.
including
And
ours.
and because of because of that, like if the original 0 already measured like 1 to 2 decibels above Harman, that meant that the 0 red, because it's already 1 to 2 decibels down from the regular 0, kind of matches up to Harman.
Yeah.
Which
is
you know,
the-
I didn't not really aiming for that.
The irony here, though, is that I mean you get why it's a little bit ironic to me, at least, right?
Yeah.
That it's
Yeah.
But I think that the bigger question there, or at least the related question, is if Harman was done, if Maya's idea here is correct.
Okay, so we're bringing something onto the stream that a lot of people here haven't.
They haven't seen. Let me see if I can
So
pull that up.
Maya TL is a prolific poster on a number of forums about audio science. Really nice guy. He has that take that the fitment of the pinna to the ear simulator is changing the response, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm quoting Maya correctly there. I hadn't been tracking on that super tightly.
I'm trying to find
the
post.
the general thing here is I'm not really sold on the premise that the ear sim is misbehaving or anything. So I don't think that it's quite that, but it is objectively the case that fitting things into the canal means that they fit differently than they do into the straight metal canal extension.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something. I mean, here's an interesting thing. That was part of Graz's sales pitch for the KB5000/KB510. Was it gives you a more human-like fit for an earphone, right? So they were literally saying when they were selling this thing, and I remember because I attended one of the first presentations where they were selling the KB510, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They were saying, this is something where you will get a different result for an in-ear because we have this angled, geometrically, anthropometrically correct canal extension. They didn't have the full canal, obviously, but still the extension. And that's going to have a meaningful impact on the response of an in-ear headphone because it's going to sit differently. So I'm not surprised that, someone says black screen. Do we still have, does stream still work?
Hold on. I think it should be
Okay,
working.
we're good. Okay, cool.
Oh, you went black because I'm trying to pull up the data. So continue.
Oh, yes, that's fair. I mean, you should just, whenever possible, hide my face to avoid frightening the children. Hold on, I'll just drop the images in here.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and pull it up in the actual stream so I can show what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And I can just quickly scrape those with Visuix if you like. That's, imprecise, but still.
I've got it.
So the upshot here is we expect the coupler measurements with the metal canal extension to be a bit different than the ones with the anthropometric pinna. And indeed that's part of the sales pitch of the pinna, is that it's supposed to be more accurate. And It might be, but we don't actually necessarily know that. And the body of work we have from Dr. Olive used the metal canal extension for the most part.
So that's what I wanted to bring up. That if there is a scenario where somebody comes along and says, well, they're using the 45CA, which is technically, the higher end version of the 43AG, which is not. It's just 2.
Well, no, it's the lower end version.
Yeah. But it's more expensive because there's 2 or something like that.
Well, yeah, but the thing I wanted to clarify is it's lower end because it's the hearing protection test fixture and it uses the pinna that are unique to it, whereas the 43AG uses the pinna from the Kemar.
Right.
Fancier, such as it is.
Totally, but I'm more thinking, to make sure that we get this description right about Harman using the canal extension and why that matters in this instance. Because if they use the 45CA, the narrative would be reversed, that all of these clone couplers and also the 43AG with RAO 402 wouldn't be a fair representation of the 0 or the red, because it wasn't using a 45CA. So I think it's the inverse is true here, that the 45CA is the one that's the outlier. At least that's the
yeah. Well, if we're comparing it to like Sean's body of work,
yeah, exactly,
it's an outlier.
And if we're talking about matching Harman, and that's really where this discussion is, I think it matters that I think it matters that people who are doing measurements here use the same, ideally, measurement methodology.
I'm less sold on that, but I have some thoughts on that I'm hoping to have some space for later in this stream.
How about right now?
Well, first I just wanted to say Haywood has a question here which I wanted to answer. Is the extension implicitly on the Gross ears the same size and shape as a human ear canal? It is for about the first 10 millimeters, so about the first third of an inch, a little more than a third of an inch. It is the same as the average. But beyond that, it's a straight canal extension because that's how the couplers actually work. They just have a straight tube. The only one that is fully geometrically the same as a human ear canal, and that one is just an average of like 26 people, is the 5128.
Right.
It's part of its sales pitch. Not that you should really be inserting IEMs deeper than 10 millimeters into your ears. I don't recommend that. But. Right. So, all right. So, yeah, my take here, and Crin may have some thoughts on this as well, is a drum that I've been beating for a while, but that I think really should be beaten more, if anything, is frequency response varies under a lot of circumstances, right? Like here we have an example of, did you show them his truth ear versus, okay, perfect.
Yeah. Well, I showed all the different versions.
Yeah. Well, but you showed him ears, right?
Yeah. So Maya's image includes that as well.
Right. So we have a difference where I'm sure that his red was probably not out of spec by that much, right?
Yeah.
Um, that would be shocking. So I'm quite confident that what you have there is, a real effect of this is sitting differently in the ear, the front volume has changed in size, it changes the response.
Hmm.
And that's not a problem, right? Like that's true to probably a lot of people's human experience.
Hmm.
And that's something from my point of view that should really be quantified, right? Like it's good to have a consistent comparison reference. Like that's why your methodology of trying to match the trapped volume length resonance, the peak, which you I believe tried to keep it like 8K, 9K.
8K, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good methodology for making things comparable. But I think it's also really interesting to compare, how is this thing going to actually vary in real ears, right?
Hmm.
And that's something where right now we aren't doing that. Like right now, nobody's doing that. And so, like whenever you have Amir get a result, we get a result, they don't quite match. A lot of people like someone's wrong. But I mean, neither side is wrong. They're both presenting realistic impedances to the headphone, right? They're both presenting something like a canal that could really happen. Some human out there is probably having an experience like Amir's measurement, and some human out there is probably having an experience like Andrew's measurement. And really, more ideally, we would have a way of looking at how do these devices vary under a normal range of circumstances and a normal range of people. Like, I
Yeah.
think that that's really, from my point of view, the next.
However, I think that also under or discounts the common practice of evaluating these products against given targets. In this case, Harman IE 2019,
Oh,
which
yeah, I mean, well, people don't have that grain of salt in their minds at all,
no,
and they should,
they should
right?
absolutely. I'm in complete agreement there. But the point in this case is more that, well, at least what I'm thinking about with this is sort of the false validation aspect, right? One of these products sounds better than the other one. Oh, it must be because it matches closer to Harman. When in reality, it's the other one that actually matches closer to Harman, given they use the same coupler as what everybody else is using, right? So
Yeah,
that's
no, it's
yeah,
and these sorts of errors are inevitable, right? Like you're gonna have when you zoom in too closely on any data set, you end up reading the tea leaves a bit.
yeah,
Um, and that's a problem people really run into with the Harman stuff. It's a problem. Like, I really, really wish that more of the people who had really strong opinions on the Harman work would read more of it because it was really interesting to me looking at the pivot from the in-ear model to the over-ear model. Did you know that they dropped some variables from the in-ear model for the over-ear model for predicting sound quality? Just
which
because
which year?
that would be this is 2017 and 2018. So in 2017 they published the in-ear statistical model that produces the PPR,
Hmm.
and then in 2018 they published the over-ear statistical model for PPR. And the interesting thing was they actually had variables in the in-ear model which they dropped for the over-ear model because they couldn't actually find consistent correlations. And ultimately I mean, this is a very dry way of saying this, but this is a way of acknowledging there are these real variations in human experience here. And they're because not of just some sort of immeasurable or ephemeral or ethereal thing. They're because of the real variations in response on real human heads. Um, but a lot of people who are very dogmatic about the data, either in being really ardently in support of it or ardently against it, seem to treat it as well, if it measured this way in one coupler, that must be how it is in every ear forever, which is just
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah. Crinacle, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, the new 5128 did open my eyes a lot on like low frequency deviations with regards to, let's say, 711 versus 5128. So one example that I like to put out was the original Blessing 1 versus
Yeah.
the Blessing 3. And for years and years, I had said that, oh, the Blessing 1, the original Blessing 1, had the limpest bass I've ever heard out of a hybrid IEM. And it was hard to substantiate because at the time, you measured it on the 711, and I was like, well, it measures with a decent amount of bass. So what are you talking about? Then came the 5128, and then I measured both the original Blessing and the Blessing 3, and you would think that both would measure the same amount of base, given that both of them measure the same amount of base on the 711, right? But no, the blessing one had substantially less of a base response. We're talking like 4 decibels, I think. That's huge. That's massive. So it kind of validated my thoughts on
Well,
like, yep, there it is. The
but
blessing one does measure with lymph
yeah,
base.
this is validation for both subjectivists and objectivists, though, because if we're all saying, "Hey, this is frequency response," it's just like, well, yeah, that's frequency response.
Yeah. So the problem with that is that, if it gets validated on one system, and perhaps it might be the case that someone does hear the blessing one with a lot of bass, but that doesn't make it the truth, right? Because anyone you talk about who actually knows about the 5128 would tell you that it's much more anatomically correct,
Mhm.
uh, and therefore even in terms of like low frequency deviations, you should trust the 5128 more, which
Well, with one
in this
caveat.
case, which caveat is that?
It's going to be more prone to have like spurious
Yeah,
leaks.
using
Yes,
the
But
yeah.
actual
So
pinna.
with
so
ideal
that's it. Yeah,
coupling, it's still going to have often
exactly.
less bass.
Yes. Okay. Let's no. So you're talking about less base. Yes. As an overall thing. Now I'm talking about deltas, differences.
Yeah.
So on the 711 versus the 5128, if you measure two IEMs on one and two IEMs on the other, the differences between the two IEMs are not going to be the same on each coupler.
Yep.
Yeah. So
And,
that was
and
the
there
point.
you would
Yeah.
trust the 5128.
Yeah, so in those cases, in like, well, which one do I trust? I'm like, yeah, I'm trusting the 5128. And of course, the caveat being that, okay, you have to have perfect seal. But I think more or less we've gotten the methodology down. We've measured like 150, almost 200 IEMs at this point. So, you know what they say, practice makes perfect.
You know, so when I got the red this past week, I spent a lot of time measuring on both 711 and the 5128, right? So kind of going through that and then I was doing a bunch of EQ and stuff like that as well. And I've sort of come to the position that like I would much rather use 5128. I mean, it goes without saying, right? But in spite of the fact that there's going to be a more difficulty in getting a seal with 5128, I'm of the opinion that the data is just so much better for IMs.
I think the seal issue is just the fact that you're just using a pinner. But wait, did you have also issues with sealing if you're using, let's say, KB 5000 or KB 5010?
like actually using the pin
Yeah,
attached?
like actually using the peanut, like as opposed to the metal canal
Yeah.
extension. Do you actually feel like there's a increased difficulty in getting a seal?
Yes.
I haven't really done that much experimenting with it, but the thing with the
Yeah.
5128 and getting a seal there, I mean, I know you have the RTA method. I've had success just using small foam tips.
Yeah, so small is nice, but foam tip, but yeah, using foam tips, I feel like it's a crutch.
It is. It also is another thing I've noticed.
It's a crutch I rely on in my real ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I've noticed is like the fine grained stuff in the treble. Like if you look at where the target is, that actually you tend to have a better chance of getting that right with the silicone tips or like having it match with the silicone tips than with the foam tips. So whether that translates to a real person, I'm not sure, but I do find that interesting as well. But
and that's where like, don't you want to know? Like, I mean,
yes.
like that's where I'm really thinking more and more as time goes by that having like the ability to take a snapshot of this is how this device that by its nature interacts with humans, interacts with a group of humans, is just like something that we should demand, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We could. I'm right now. I was thinking about maybe I should contact one of my local universities and just do a repeat of Harmon, but on 5128.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just need to call up. Wait, which department is this? Is this like under biomed or is it under engineering?
Engineering, probably.
Okay, so I'll talk to my engineering friends, see what links that they have for me. Maybe some tired caffeine hopped student who's trying to do his PhD is willing to help me.
Yeah, I mean, like, find someone who's doing something in acoustics or like similar, and be like, "Hey, I have
Yeah,
resources. Do
Yeah.
you want to get a
yeah,
free thesis?"
I mean, but
yeah.
this is in
I
a
got a
way.
$20,000 rig that the university refuses to fund you.
Yeah. What happens if it turns out that I mean, we sort of all expect that at least Harman IE 2019 is going to be revealed to be, not
Well,
not
you
the
guys all
preferred.
expect. I don't actually have an opinion.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, so Crinacle and I both expect that,
Mm.
and maybe many within the audio community as well have that same sort of like hypothesis. But what happens if it turns out to validate Harman IE 2019? I mean, it's
So
not
be
really
it,
going to change anything, right?
Well, all
so
that
be it.
means, like, all that means is that you're a segment, right? Like,
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is
Yeah, there's the
like,
IEF segment and
Yeah,
yeah,
but I think the bigger issue now is that we shouldn't repeat the mistakes that not say mistakes that Harman perpetuated, but more like the fact that the whole one true target notion got proliferated.
right.
Like I think if the study were to be reconducted, like this aspect of like, yeah, it's all personal preference. We're just simply trying to get like a what is referred to as a baseline, as opposed to it being hit this or die. So
Well, yeah.
well,
So
unless it's red, in which case, get
unless it's
this or
red,
die.
yes. In which case you buy it and just get out of the hobby.
so like I mean, with that though, I mean, there is a sense in which like we've been critical of the publication model, for example, with the Harman research being behind AES, and also like
Well,
you
you've
don't.
been
I've
critical.
been critical, yeah, yeah, because I think for people who have no idea what it is, they just get the headline or they read somebody's uh, mischaracterization of something, and then they come to that assumption that there is the one true target, right? And it's not really Harman's fault that this is sort of turned into the way that it gets used. There is also a sense in which the way any graph where it's a line against another line is interpreted is like, well, that good is if it matches, right? And so I guess what would be your method for improving the communication of
I
that?
mean, I've already started doing that, right? With the whole tilt and bass boost function. It is simplistic, yes, but it is simplistic for the fact that more people would be able to intuitively just get it from the start. You
Mm-hmm.
give
Yeah,
them too many filters, they'll be just like, which one makes me make the low end go doof doof, and it just click out.
Right.
oh
Um,
no, it's a really good function, honestly. Like, that's something that I think. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I'm sure that Sean's happy about that because he's basically the opinion that headphones should have the functions that your target adjustment have. So,
I mean, it's on my headphones tool as well, so go down and try it out. Yeah.
actually, on that one, I had a question. So, I really love the whole impedance adapter thing, and setting the electrical impedance curve such that, people can use it in a fairly simple way to adjust the sound. But
Hmm.
when are non-fixed impedance adapters coming? I want to have an adapter that I can
Yo,
just like
okay, yeah,
dial.
but isn't that just like a passive filter in a way? Like you're
Yeah,
actually doing, yeah. I mean, in that case, you could just go down to headphones.com. Am I allowed to talk about that?
what?
uh,
Uh, am I allowed
Let's.
to talk about that?
yeah, I think you're allowed to talk about that.
No, I
Okay,
don't
yeah.
even know what you're talking about.
What do you
Isn't
mean
that
you
the
don't know
thing
what you're
that,
talking about? It's Douglas's thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, the bass jack. I mean, isn't that what the bass jack kind of does? Okay, no, the bass jack is just, yeah, it is kind of what the
Well,
bass jack
there's a
does.
concept to do something like that, basically.
Something
Yeah,
adjustable.
yeah, yeah.
Douglas is, for his version of it, he really wants it to be fixed. I really want it to
Yeah.
be variable. That's why I pitch it to everyone who has the idea.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so I am open to the idea. It's just that the problem is if you're going full like passive electrical filters with non-linear impedances, it's going to be huge, like huge relative to an adapter, for instance, which is why, no one's going to use it if it's too big,
I
right?
don't think there would be anything wrong. Like, I don't think the suggestion would be that would need to be included in something like the red, but maybe for something in the future, right? Where say the price point is different or the product itself is different.
It's wait, yeah. So you kind of got to give credit to like DIY Audio Heaven at that point. Isn't he doing something like that?
Oh no, I mean France has been doing that forever. Like that's the best part of DIY audio heaven.
And
Yeah,
Sauter did.
so
He made
so
one for me a
and
long time ago.
What was
yeah,
that?
I
so
believe it was him at least.
so not a new idea. Like if you tell me to do it, I'm like, yeah, I can do it, but isn't it kind of like schmoozing someone's idea away? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, but you should steal good ideas, and you should bring them to the public for less money.
I'll think about it. That's a good
See, but then
idea.
Crinacle loses his sort of Robin Hood allure, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
no, he is Robin Hood. You just be Robin Hooding away from us. We're
Oh,
the
okay.
sheriff of Nottingham.
That's fair.
I mean the things I want to do is just kind of like, well, here's like a high shelf and a low shelf, and you kind of can adjust there, like on a purely analog way. But at the same time, people will be like, why not just use EQ, right? Because
That's
honestly, yeah,
that's.
you should just use EQ.
Wow,
I mean, it's
Super
crazy
Review
that
has a
people don't.
great idea in chat. Impedance adapters should be integrated into the Y split of a cable. Oh,
What?
that's a
So you
How?
can sell cables that actually do make a difference.
oh,
Wait,
that's a
but how would you change the impedance?
And could you make it small enough so that it wouldn't like drag your, you know?
you could have a little
Wait, so,
potentiometer. So you could have a little
so
potentiometer
what?
that's put into it.
Do you take out the resistor and put it in like some like a kyber crystal in a lightsaber or something? I don't know.
Well, actually,
Basically,
there
I
are
mean, like
cables that are.
it would
That,
be like, if it's a big-ish Y split, you could fit a PCB in there, have a little potentiometer in the middle so you could twiddle it,
can you
and
fit
then
one
you
of
could
these
have the
in?
passives you needed. Dude, that's a great idea.
All right, you know what? You send me the blueprints and I'll try and schmooze my Chinese factory sweatshop child labor people to try and make it one. How about that?
Excellent.
You should partner up with Viking Weave Cables because they already have the really big Y split,
Oh God.
and it would
Oh
fit in
dear.
there, right? um,
Okay, the chat's saying that Y splits are apparently incredibly fat in general. Is that true? Like mine
for
is
a lot of
small.
them, like for a lot of them, they are quite chunky. But I mean,
Might be a thing, yeah.
I think it would get
Or just
it would add to the weight of the headphones and well or whatever it is, right? If it's
yeah,
IEMs,
yeah.
right?
So that's
Yeah,
a different problems, right? Because IEMs are already supposed to be quite light, so you're just
yeah,
gonna be adding on quite like headphones. I think that's viable, but
yeah,
IEMs is gonna be a bit fat. Question mark.
yeah. I suppose the other question is how granular can you get, and how small can you get it? You know.
Yeah, yeah.
We
So
should
that's my
probably
biggest
not
issue.
do product dev on the stream, I guess.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back to which is why the adapter, the 10 ohm adapter is just so elegant. It's just small and just plug it in and there you go, bass boost. But unfortunately it only works if your impedance is, like that of the zero and the zero red.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, you could do that. The thing is, you could do that to any headphone, right? Like the neat thing about these headphones is that if you wanted to, you could make the electrical input impedance that almost any headphone presented look
Yeah.
like that. So like that's something where I just feel like people should have that option, you know?
Hmm.
It's sick.
Yeah. It's sick, but who's gonna make the product? That's the big issue. Once yeah, let's not do product dev because we can
Yeah.
go in circles all day about this.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. We should do a poll. Who wants to watch product dev stream Sundays?
That's the
Let's brainstorm products that would never come out on the market.
actually in next month we could actually talk about that. We could do like a product dev live stream.
Why is Crinacle
What
profile
products
picture
are
so
you
tiny?
deving?
No, we have a fun content idea that well I don't want to talk about it yet, but it's a content idea mainly.
Sure. I'm down. Up and down.
Yeah.
All right, so I actually have a question for you, Corinne. This is from me personally.
What's up?
So, why are you opposed to having your own brand?
Okay.
This goes back to
Okay.
Super's
Yeah, yeah,
comment
yeah.
as
So
well.
if you can just imagine, just imagine, let's say someone who is an actual CEO of a brand. Like, okay, let's just call let's assume Fang Pian
Mhm.
from Hi-Fi Man,
Mm-hmm.
and he talks shit about, you know, like let's say he talks shit about Abyss or he talks shit about Odyssey, and in his mind, it's like it's criticism. I'm reviewing something. But to everyone else, it's like, damn, this guy is just shit talking his competitors, right? So
I
it
mean,
is in a similar. I mean, in the collab way, it's a similar thing. It's just that the difference is I just don't rank my own things, and I don't have any love towards, or should I say, I don't have any hard connections to any of the brands I collab with. Like I've said bad things about some Moondrop products. I've said bad things about, well, Truth Year has been kind of doing great. So I haven't said bad things about them. I've said bad things about 7 Hertz. I've said bad things about C Audio. I've said bad things about Fio, um, even Fearless. So in general, it's like I still have the freedom to just be like, hey, I work with these guys, but they're not my brand, so I can still talk shit about it. So I'm not really locked down in any way, if it makes sense.
I've added Crinacle to the stream.
I like how he's poking out, but you can still see the little mini Crin as the devil on his shoulder.
Yeah. Sorry.
I get where you're coming from there. I don't know. I feel like you should assume that anyone who talks about a competitor of their product is gonna have some bias, right? But I also feel like people have kind of a weird thing with this where like there's a ton of bias among pretty much all of the reviewers out there. But for some
Yeah.
reason that's the hill people want to die on of not talking about your competitors. Like I wish more companies, CEOs were open about what they thought about other people's products because they have some of the best insight into the actual inner workings of this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like
So
I'm
yeah.
always
So
sad when
it's
Shankar is
a
so polite.
It's a PR issue, right? In a sense.
Yeah.
yeah, it is a PR issue where people just see it as like a what is it called? Like a takedown piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a very hard thing. So if I do ever branch out into making my own brand, that would be the day that I retire from reviewing, like actually retire from reviewing.
Okay,
So
but would you still post about stuff online and be like, this sucks?
no, I would post
God
about
damn
stuff
it.
that honestly, like stuff that I've been kind of doing on my channel, where I'm just like, kind of shit posting about audio, but not actually reviewing anything. Yes, I know that's a problem that I'm trying to fix, but yeah, that I mean, yeah. So I won't actually be reviewing things. I'll obviously still have a presence online on media, but at that point, yeah, I'll consider myself fully retired from actually reviewing. I might still do measurements. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But whether or not those measurements will be public, that'll be a different thing because at that point, I'll be a full corporate shill, right? Why am I giving out charity to people?
Right. I mean, to a certain extent, this is that would be kind of like the dream, right? Like if or I'm just thinking in your case, right? If you could just go directly into product development, you wouldn't need to be a reviewer if you had a brand, and that's exclusively what you were doing.
It's so I'm in a weird spot now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't need to be a reviewer anymore. I'm
Even right
doing
now,
it just
yeah.
yeah, like now I'm just like doing it purely out of like just it being a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I have enough content to be on YouTube to talk about audio without actually reviewing things. And my Patreon is mostly about measurements. I can just lock down the measurements like that. Don't actually have to review because YouTube pays dog, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
actually earn anything from YouTube. And of course, yeah, collabs make good money. So I'm really just doing reviewing because I like to review.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, it's a case where if I do actually get sick of reviewing, or if I get enough backlash to the point where I'm just like, you know what, fuck all of these noise, and I'm just gonna dip out. And I can do it like from a drop of a hat.
Right.
Okay, so if you did do that, would you at least start doing weird rambling like stream of
Oh, absolutely.
consciousness videos?
Okay, no,
Like
no, 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 no. I think that's too dangerous. That's gonna
no,
kill
no,
me. When I
no, no.
retire from reviewing, that means I'm a CEO of a company. I can't have a PR nightmare like
No, no,
that.
think about oh shoot, what's his name? The Coloradan company. They make like a really PS Audio CEO.
Oh God damn it.
I'm
You
not
could be
familiar with
the
that.
next
Yeah,
PS Audio. I would watch every one
maybe.
of your videos of you just
I
walking
guess
around
so.
your factory and rambling.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that. I haven't seen that.
Oh, they're so good. I mean, there's a lot of
I mean,
very
this is how
unevidenced
I get an angry
claims.
letter from PS Audio.
Okay, listen. I profoundly enjoy the PS Audio videos. They're a very fun view of one man's perspective, which is often very far off of the scientific consensus. But yeah, as Superview said, it's extremely endearing. And I'd
Yeah.
love to see you do that, Cred, if you quit the review game.
Oh, are you saying that I don't? My opinions aren't scientifically sound?
Well, no, the thing is, once you've gotten that far out, you can just say anything. Like you would
But
Say
be
anything.
uncensored.
at the same time, you know, like it, it's not like it's not, as Corinne was just saying. A lot of this is doing it just because he enjoys it, right? So like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
an element of that. You know, the community needs somebody like Crinacle, you know, with doing what he's doing. You know, so
Yeah. I mean, reviewing. I like to consider myself like reviewing is my job, but it doesn't have to be. I like to do what I love, so I'm doing what I love.
there
I
you go.
don't want to yeah. So the question. So to answer the question, I don't want to retire, but if I do, then the brand comes out.
Right. Fair enough.
But for now, you're living the dream.
For now, I'm just like I still should post a bit. I can talk shit about manufacturers without losing my cancel. Crowd get canceled, I guess. So yeah,
Okay,
living the
did he
dream.
just become a robot for anyone
No, he's
else?
good. He's good.
Oh, it's just
Yeah,
me.
No, he did become a robot, but it's not too bad. Crinbot.
green bot,
Yeah.
the squig bot.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. I was thinking the new term for someone who does measurements could be squig pig, but no.
I'd
think-
like you to take that back.
Listener doesn't like that.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
No. Well, then you can have it be in the squig pen. But
Oh
okay.
dear.
Yeah, I think that we're losing viewership now because
Yeah.
of what you've just said.
Yeah. I have nothing else.
Any more questions about the red? This is your last chance to grill me about it.
You're going back to bed?
Well, actually,
Kinda.
what time is it there? Were you like what are you?
It's like 11 p.m. But I'm like I'll have to fly off tomorrow. But yeah, it's okay. I can stay up for a little bit longer.
Did you stay? Did you stay for like a whole week there ahead of time, or was it just for the weekend?
Yeah, more or less like 6 nights. Yeah.
You get to do anything else fun in Germany or around?
Mostly just we went mostly just car thing. We went to the Porsche museum today. That was nice, but I still prefer the BMW museum.
I'm trying not to say something ill-advised.
What, you don't
Okay.
like Porsche?
I know I like Porsche. Well, I'm not really a car guy. Of cars, I like Porsches.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
but being in Germany means like yeah, you're surrounded by so many of these like very established car brands.
Yeah.
Audi is just nearby. Mercedes-Benz was in Stuttgart as well. Yeah, but we didn't hit those places up. Yeah. But it's nice. Munich was nice. We ate a lot of Bavarian food. I think the one that we liked the most was some I will not speak German just purely out of respect for my German fans. Just like some roasted pork.
Mm-hmm. Some schnitzel.
we did actually have a
man,
couple.
man, how could you
Shush,
say
shush,
it? No,
shush, 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 shush.
no, I prefer Porsche. I prefer Porsche.
Okay. Okay, so we're not going to leak that one from the chat. I don't want to die yet. Super Review actually has a question about the red. Did you ask about a cable that doesn't have a right angle?
I didn't actually think I never actually thought about that because to me it's like oh right angle feels nice, but I didn't think like oh shit like right angle
Jesus
cable
Christ.
with the straight adapter. And I was like oh yeah, that's gonna be a problem. But now just live with it, I guess. Maybe in version 2, whenever that comes out.
Yeah, fair
Is
enough.
this something that I need to delete in the chat here?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay.
Don't feed the trolls, people. Well, no, don't delete that one.
It God, it moved up when I went to click. All right, I've undone that one. And make sure that
When
it's,
is right angle even useful? Man,
sorry,
that's
base.
a hot take.
There we go.
Like always, yeah.
I'll be
like
honest, I
like
don't like right angle.
reminisce the times when our devices had headphone jacks at the bottom of our phones. That would be
Honestly,
it. That yeah.
I don't miss it.
You know, is it? You prefer
Extremely.
our current dong meta?
Well, the thing is, admittedly, I hate IEMs. So I just happily switched over to true wireless stuff and kept on
Oh, okay.
listening as I always did.
That's just because IEMs are lo-fi.
IEMs are lo-fi. That's a good take. Crin, what's your take on IEMs or lo-fi? We're gonna quote you on this.
I think headphones are lo-fi, and I would justify that right now because I know people are
Uh-huh.
gonna start canceling me. I
Okay.
use speakers at home, and then I use IEMs outdoors. There is no use case in my own specific use case. There's no use case for headphones.
Uh,
Headphones are lo-fi.
I respect that though. I respect that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still think, I don't know. My thought here is that I have yet to find an IEM that really matches my preferences. Whereas with headphones, I have an easier time finding that. Although now with the 5128, I think we have a better chance. So
I mean, honestly, the like even true wireless sets get pretty dang close to preferences. Like I think the AirPods Pro 2s are like slightly boomy and a little bit low res, but in general, it slaps. I like it.
yeah, it's good.
And if I really want like pure sound quality, I'll go for the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro, which is honestly at this point like better than 80% of what's out there in the market today.
I disagree.
You don't like them? Oh, right. You don't like them, do
No,
you?
I like them better than the other popular ones, except for the AirPods Pro 2. I think AirPods Pro 2 are better. Because I find them shouty and harsh in the treble.
Understandable, I guess.
I mean, it's basically everything that you said. I just in your comparison as well, Crinacle, but just that I cared about the other things.
Right.
So
You like the slight subdued nature of the AirPods Pro 2.
exactly, yeah. I think that's closer to my preference. But here we are again in different segments. Although I think in
By the
general,
way, be careful about what you say. We're being watched.
what do you mean?
Oh,
Andrew's in
oh,
chat.
Andrew's here.
The other Andrew.
Oh yeah,
The other Andrew. Andrew number 14.
I think no. He's
Andrew Lissamore is Andrew number 1 in
He's
my
Andrew
heart.
number 1. Yeah, exactly.
It's okay, Andrew number 27. I still like you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's dive into the chat here and go through some of the stuff that is the.
There's a lot of right angle hate here.
Yeah.
As long as we don't have to go on right angle left turns, right?
Someone asked what speakers I'm using. I'm using the KH120 with the KH750 subwoofer. And
Sweet.
in typical fashion, I added 12 dBs of sub bass.
He really does fit a stereotype, doesn't he?
You should be Canadian.
You and Taryn must get along well.
I would like to upgrade though. Like I've been teasing myself about General X for the longest time. And
Have you seen the 8381? They made it just for you.
The new one.
83. Oh my God. Yeah. No. That not that big. I was considering between the 8331 and the 8351. 51 if I have the space, 31 if I'm using it on the desk. So
Yeah, those
I
are
don't know.
both the one series are they're just a work of art in terms of engineering.
I know, right? Yeah, I want one, but at this time, like, if I'm gonna have to plug out everything and reset up everything again, like, my laziness overpowers my love for the Gen X.
Oh, but the sound quality, dude. Like that's. I mean, and that's why I'm still using the H800 after all this goddamn years. But like, if I had the opportunity to just snag a couple of the ones, that would be worth resetting up everything for.
Would you put a sub with it? Because I would.
Well, I mean, no, I wouldn't put a sub with it.
Blaine
You
hates
put
bass.
2 subs with it.
Well, no, I'm empirically like And Todd Welty has a hilarious PowerPoint about this. Wow, that was my most boring thing I've ever said, and that's a really high bar. But it actually is a hilarious PowerPoint, where he's like goes through different subwoofer layouts for basically for dealing with room modes.
Oh
The
yeah.
best case is like 5,000, but obviously that's a bit non-viable.
Mhm.
But
Dude,
more subs
I'm just
good.
I'm just lazy as hell and do the worst thing that anyone would advise you to do, which is to put it under the table. But it
No, don't
helps.
do
It
that.
helps with. No, I'm doing it because it helps with the slam.
I just don't
Just
want to offend my neighbors and start, fighting.
That's a very Canadian thing of you to say.
It is, yeah. Small apartment.
Okay, let's.
Let's go. We're about 2 hours here. Let's go for another 10 minutes, and we'll get questions from the chat. Ideally, the spiciest ones. How does that sound, guys?
Sure,
Sounds good to me.
spice me up.
All right,
Spice me up.
all right, guys.
Everyone, start typing spicy questions.
Yeah, the spiciest for any of us.
No, don't ask me spicy questions. I'm
Sorry,
spicy enough.
we did get a question from Jobra. Guys, would clear MG be a lot better than Sen Momentum 4? For sound quality, yes.
But not for portability.
Yeah. All right. Someone's asking what your favorite hot sauce is, Blaine.
Bruh, I've only just been able to deal with table pepper. I have
My
the
favorite
lowest
hot-
spice tolerance of anyone.
Yeah, I learned that when you came to visit. That's
Yeah.
My favorite hot sauce is mayonnaise.
A man after my own heart, except that I hate mayonnaise.
Yeah.
What's your favorite hot sauce, Andrew?
So I love stuff that's really spicy, but it often doesn't agree with me. So yeah, probably some sort of chili oil, like Thai chili oil thing. Yeah.
Actually, I do actually sometimes endure the pain of chili oil for how good it tastes.
Yeah. But I want to try, the series Hot Ones, right? The First We Feast thing. I want to try maybe not all of them, but like there's a lot of them that people are like, oh, they're really good. So I want to like get into those and try them.
Why is Joel sending me The Last Dab?
Oh yeah, that's from that thing that I'm talking about.
That's the one that
yeah.
kills your butthole.
No, that's the Bomb Beyond Insanity. But that one probably also does. Yeah. But yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's
Blaine. This question is for you because you're the one who convinced me out to do this.
Yeah.
Super asks you if why do the defaulting to pre-compensated?
Ah, okay. So this one basically boils down to the sign illusion. So the sign illusion, for those who are not familiar, is basically if you have a set of superimposed lines that are wiggly, humans are incredibly crap at figuring out the actual distance between them. So there's some really good examples.
Oh yeah.
of this.
I've seen that research. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, he's right. He's right.
And you don't realize this until you overlay two things and you give yourself the challenge of, at a bunch of these points, say, what is the actual difference? And then you actually subtract one from the other. And then you're like, oh, well, shoot. I was just frickin' wrong.
Yeah.
And that's... I've been on that horse since like 2017. All these Johnny-come-latelys, I just bullied into it recently.
I mean, there's a sense in which there's so many different targets out there that I can understand why people want raw graphs. So it's part and parcel with that problem in a sense.
Well, so I think
that
I think there's a problem here where people default to compensating stuff with just targets that came from where the sun don't shine, and that causes problems, right? If everyone compensates to a different target, then compensation just makes things worse.
Well,
and Jude has made that point.
We've still, yeah, I mean, so that's true, but we've still had issues even before where we would have something compensated to Harman and another thing compensated to DF, and it was nowhere was it published what the compensation was. So that's super confusing. And I think,
no, that's not right.
And that's also before people got
DF.
Yeah, and it's also before the advent of the 5128 and the common use of other measurement systems too. So it's almost like now, because there's more data out there, we need a bit more consensus on that topic.
Mm.
Okay,
But
so
I do have my own solution to that. Is that all graphs have just labels to them, and of course, when you just adjust the tilt and the base, it still shows on the graph. But I know that this is not just limited to just one database. Like yeah, like Andrew said, this is an issue if just one guy, just doesn't do compensation. Sorry, doesn't label the
Yeah.
target use on the conversation. It just creates all sorts of confusion, and we go back to square one essentially.
well, that said, the same could be said about differences in how we measure, right? Like those are things where that should just be basic good practice for everyone.
It should
Period.
be, yeah. I mean, you can totally, but I still think. I mean, now it's less of an issue too, though, because there is so much data about on various products. But if you rewind just even a few years ago, it would be like a big deal to find a graph on something, and oftentimes you didn't know what the hell the
Well, yeah,
compensation.
that's before everyone just spent
Yeah.
an ungodly amount of money buying all these rigs and
It's
doing all
actually
these
it
measurements.
is actually your fault, but that's a different topic.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll take credit. Well, no, it's strictly it's Crin's fault. Like
Yes,
Crin
yes.
is pretty.
Oh no.
But it's a
another
good thing.
thing
It's
that's
a good
Crin's
thing, right?
fault.
Now,
Yeah.
we don't need that. Like we should just have the assumed. This is what the target is, right? But even among our own, situation here right now, where we use one version of or one approach of DF plus slope, and Crin uses a slightly different one, and Constantine uses one with the Harman
Okay,
filters applied.
Here's the thing.
At least we all label them. All right, let's just say that.
Yeah, well, no, everyone should label them,
Yeah.
right? And like the Linus people have been good about that. Crin obviously automatically is good about that.
Yeah.
We're pretty good about that. We could do better, but we're gonna do better with our new thing that we can't talk about.
See who's breaking into
You
you.
guys you guys have been working on your own tool for like years now, and
No,
I'm
no, no,
still
no.
waiting on that.
We haven't actually. We haven't actually. We've
Okay.
worked on at least two. No, we've worked on three separate things.
Okay.
So
Okay, but
Yes,
okay,
this is
so
true.
the
We
tool
did
is
work
ready.
on
Where
three
is it?
separate
Where's the
things.
tool? Come on,
This
the
is one
guys.
thing
of
is,
those
we
things-
canceled the other two.
This is one of the things where there's always things that are in the works, but not every. It happens in not just in this world, right? It happens in all kinds of.
Not just in what
It
are you
happens in
talking
all kinds
the
of different
spirit
industries.
world?
Yeah, in all kinds of different industries as well, where the things that actually make it to the public, there's a lot more that don't, and this is I think one
Yeah.
of those cases.
So Caleb FC Contract had a question of. I'm trying to scroll up. Don't you think that further encourages the whole if it doesn't match up 100% to the target, it's bad? That's why I think we should be publishing straight DF. Because straight DF is preferred by almost nobody, but it does align headphones pretty well with perceptions of speakers in rooms. So we simply have straight DF as the compensation because that covers the majority of the wiggliness. And then we overlay a target bound around it, which shows what people are going to prefer on average.
What about just like okay, so DF is the compensation,
Yeah.
and then just a tilted line with a base
So
boost
when
on,
you
on
see
top of
Exactly.
it.
So when you see
Exactly that.
a measure like a compensated graph, basically you have to use a compensated graph, and when you
Or
see
I'll
it,
shoot you.
and when you see it, that gets represented as a downward tilt. That's
Yes.
the idea.
Honestly, yeah, I can do that. I can do
See?
that.
See?
Just
I think
no, I said you didn't tell me about this. You were just
Well,
telling me
no.
like, oh, just
No,
just
'cause-
make it
Okay,
three
so-
compensated. And I'm like, okay,
So-
I'll do it.
Okay. So you're getting the tail end of a months-long internal argument
this has
here.
been more than a month.
Months,
Let's be real.
plural.
Oh, months, yeah.
All right, so if I implemented this, then the world is a perfect place. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you can implement this
No.
and force Andrew to go along with this, then
So
I
actually,
will personally swear
hold on.
fealty to you.
I will concede to the point that I will concede because I agree that it is a more elegant way of doing this, right? Because it's essentially trying to solve the
Right.
same problem. If Crinacle gets on board with only showing it this way, I'll get on board with that too.
Well, only showing it this way.
It's not only
So-
as in it's no, because I have a tool, right? You can just
Yes,
I
I
can
know.
make it as a default viewing option.
Yes, so that's what
I
I mean.
think
That's what I mean. The
default is
default.
good.
Yeah, if you make it as a default option, then I'm a little bit more on board with this. I still think there are issues. The issue, I mean, as Blaine knows what the issue is. It's that if you ask people, off the street, if it makes more sense as a flat line or as a downward tilt, there's an extra layer of why is it a downward tilt that you have to
Okay,
explain.
so but how about we re-angle the chart so that the marking lines are at an angle?
Right? Like, it has to be useful to people who are like, they're either, just a little bit interested in the data, or like, you don't have the opportunity to explain to them why there's a downward tilt. Let's just imagine
Okay,
that, right?
so here's the thing. I don't think we should be showing those people I don't think we should be showing those people FR at all, right? Like I think that we should be showing them something that's an abstraction of FR. Because if someone doesn't want to look into the minutia, FR is all minutia, right? Like what we should be showing them is
There
something that
is
tells them, is this a headphone that's dark? Is it V-shaped? Whatever.
So your solution is you show them a bar graph.
Yeah, probably for like.
but at the
Oh
same
my
time,
God.
like
Or
there is
the
a
people, if you can't trust someone to read an FR plot, you can't trust someone to read an FR plot. Like that's the thing.
right. So you're going to bite the bullet on most people probably shouldn't be reading an FR plot.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't think so. I think that that's data that most people can interpret. But I think that if you want to give people something that's easy to be instantly understood, then you should just give them something that's abstracted from FR.
I don't know.
I mean, now we're just like going back into a circle to like the blurb that you see on packaging where it's just like bass, mids, treble, and it's just bar graphs for 3 of them.
Yeah.
Well, if that was accurate, it might actually be useful. It's just that that's almost never accurate.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I think this debate is going to continue, and
Well, no, I mean, and the thing is, you're looking at this from the context of being like an enthusiast, right? Enthusiasts never want that shit, and I sure as shit don't want that shit. But if you want to give someone who isn't going to be able to understand this line should be angled, I mean, how much more simple
look, here's the thing.
it's
I
slope can you get?
whatever that idea was about doing a bar graph, I can do that. I think that would also be like another viewing option for the graph tool. I would puke whenever I press it, but it can be an option.
So
Well, and I don't even think it should be like. I honestly think that we should have it represented by. Super Review has the correct take in the chat, by the way. Sound demos are the answer.
Oh no. Oh no.
hold on. I just have to one sec here, guys.
Actually, sorry, I shouldn't credit that. That was Jamie said that first.
You just 1 second. I have to address Jobra. Stop using the super chat. I will answer it. But you are
You're wasting your money,
wasting
my
your
dude.
money. Don't do that. So the question is, would Clear MG be a lot better than Sennheiser Momentum 4? We did just answer this. Do I need a DAC? This is stuff that just use an Apple dongle is probably fine for the Clear MG, right? And yes, it is better sound quality than Momentum 4. I think you should just get the Clear OG, but whatever. Best headphone in your opinion in the Clear MG price range for trap house techno music. Would Aria be better in your opinion? Nope. I actually think Clear OG is the better choice out of those.
The Clear OG is just a very, very competent headphone.
Yeah. But please stop using the super chat.
Stop giving us money. We don't even get it.
it's yeah. I should probably just turn it off.
Wait, you can turn it off?
No, at the beginning of a stream I can do it. I can't. I don't think I can. Yeah. What were we talking about? So sound demos. I mean, this is if sound demos were done.
I love how we're gonna do a FAQ and then we get one spicy question and have argued since then.
We've gone from like graphs, compensation, and then bar graphs, and now sound demos.
Let's quickly.
We're at the point of no
return. Let's go back to the compensation thing. This is still something that we're going to need to continue to talk about. I don't think we're going to solve it in one live stream session.
No. It's just going to be a 7-hour live stream. We're going to have Crin stay on the phone until he's on his plane.
I would want to know more what. There is a sense in which I'd want to know what, the people who are going to be most using this stuff would want. If there's a preference for a tilted DF, sorry, you get what I mean, a tilted compensation. Then I have no issue with doing that. I have less of an issue with doing that. I think because here's the thing, I don't know if my assumption is correct that new people have trouble with the tilt aspect of it. That's just pure having gone through the learning process of what that has meant. there's an element of confusion. And we live in a world where Crinacle's data already exists, plus all kinds of other data from clone couplers and
But
the like.
yeah, so here's the interesting thing about tilt, right? Yeah, you say it and it sounds weird, and then you just press the up and down button, and it's so intuitive. You just instantly get it. It's like, oh, that's what tilt is.
Yep.
It's very hard to just to try and dumb down things to the point where you're just not giving out information anymore. So I feel like tilt is the least of our issues, because if you just tell the person to just press buttons, they will get it instantly.
You'll just
I
start fiddling.
hope. Please just
So
press
does that mean
buttons.
does that mean
yeah.
you have every intention of developing on your tool as the defaults compensated as a tilt?
Wait, as in the overlay of the tilt
So Blaine's
on top
suggestion
of
here, just so we're clear,
Okay.
is compensate everything to DF and then represent that
DF.
instead of as a flat line as a downward tilt.
yeah.
Well, wait.
So
So,
I can
like
I
having
can,
a target line that's a downward tilt
Yeah.
or whatever.
yeah,
your
I can
target-
It's
I
instead
can
of a
get
flat
my
line
div-
across, it's a
yeah, I can get my developer to do that, no issue. It's just that it's like, are you sure? Like this
Are you
is
sure
this is a
about
big this is
It's
a big
change.
commitment.
It's a big change. Yeah.
I mean, listen, this is a commitment that I will cut off my finger in favor of this commitment. This is one that I feel more strongly about than almost anything. Honestly, you guys can pick the finger.
All right. I'll do it. It should be done like 1 or 2 weeks, I guess.
Okay, now we need to get that set up on our end too.
Okay. But is there anything else about the tilt function? I took Blaine's suggestion for also the all right, let's start the tilt at like 200 hertz or something similar.
No, wait, are you doing 200 or 20?
200. So the reason I said that is because he has a base toggle.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Right, for his. I see.
I think that his thing is
Hold on.
honestly pretty elegant.
So the problem is people will still use target adherence as a strong judgment point. So if it's so far off, people will complain or not use it. At all.
So there's I have a counter to that, is that when you just give people the option to use their own target, right? Then it's not really an issue anymore, because
So
they could say like it sucks because it doesn't adhere to my target. Then they sound stupid, right?
So, and here's the best part that I like about DF, just because I am on my full-on DF Gunter Thiel full body
Raging hard
Gunter
boner.
Thiel's face.
yeah.
No, well, there's a reason that you can only see my face. So the nice thing about it
So many
is-
questions.
The nice thing about it is, let us all come up with our own target. No, you can just all have your own targets, because
Yeah.
if you have DF compensation by default, if you play around with an EQ, or if you just fucking draw it, you have a target, right? Try drawing freehand an accurate ear gain with the tonal adjustments you want. You can't do it, but you can say, "Oh, I want to dip."
Yeah, no, I get you. It makes it so that you don't you're constrained sufficiently so you don't mess up, something key, right?
Well, and not just constrained sufficiently. I can't do that. Like, I look at HRTFs all day. I try to freehand an HRTF. I screw it up.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. So Crinacle, the point here is that this would need to be set up as the default. If it's set up as the default, then I think the discussion happens for us as well.
All right, I'll do it.
Because
Based.
because this is where like the hesitation at least from my perspective comes from 2 points. One is whether or not that's actually intuitive to people, and if you're saying that with fiddly controls, buttons, whatever, people will intuitively figure that out. Yeah, I think there's probably something to that.
Okay, yeah. So
the other
that's-
is that there is the inertia of right now the way people read measurements.
Mhm. So I would say that's intuitive if you show people a tilted with base boosted graph as well.
This is about
Like
to
just
get
some random number. Like, okay, for me it's not random. Like I've already specifically selected like negative 0.8 dBs with 10 decibel bass boost, right?
Yeah.
And if I overlay that with your current with the new way of displaying the measurement, then I think people would kind of intuitively get it like, oh, okay, that's the target, I guess. Why is it down tilted? Then they'll just start playing with buttons and be like, oh, that's tilt. Oh, that's bass boost. I like
I
to
think
think
it's
that
great.
that would, yeah. I mean, I see the merits, which is why I'm willing to try and implement this. And if all goes badly, I just revert it back. There's no issue for me.
Yeah.
All right.
But if you revert it back, I'm gonna kill you.
He'll start cutting off the fingers. Have you seen the movie Banshees of Inisherin?
I think that's one of the few by that guy I haven't seen.
Okay,
Because
you
that was
should
by
watch
the
it
In
because it's
Bruges
all
guy,
about
right?
cutting off. Yeah, it's all about cutting off fingers.
God, In Bruges was such a good
It's
movie.
the best movie. It is the best
In the
movie.
park, there are many alcoves.
Yeah.
Okay, can we talk about sound demos?
Sure. Let's talk about sound demos.
Yeah, you hear that pain? You hear the pain in his voice?
So
That's
actually,
how
Blaine,
you know it's a juicy
Blaine
topic.
has already guided me along the garden path to being okay with sound demos. I still think there are issues with it, but I think they can be useful if done correctly.
Which they're not.
Nobody's
they are
doing
not.
them. Nobody's currently.
But we
doing them
can.
correctly. Actually, there is. Doesn't Crutchfield do something like that? I think they have it where you select, but it's for speakers. And you
So
have
the
to,
problem with Crutchfield, at least if they're still using the methodology from the last time I checked, is that they did it in a fucking anechoic chamber.
okay, I'm not familiar with their methodology. I just knew that you could select your playback equipment, which I thought was
Yeah.
kind of, a good idea.
Which is vital, right?
Yeah.
You need to know that. But
Yeah.
my memory is that Crutchfield did either anechoic or quasi-anechoic recordings, like hemi-anechoic recordings of speakers, where really to demo speakers, what you need is headphones and a hats,
Right.
because then you actually get
Yeah.
the correct interactions with a room, and still it's room specific.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Crutchfield has the headphones thing, right? I don't think that they had the recording set up right, but I do appreciate that they made an effort. But
Mhm.
something that was similar to that, where you say, okay, this is the playback headphone. We're gonna equalize it flat,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna play back the recording. That works.
So here's where Crinacle and I can say, but you don't get a representation of technicalities.
Well, no, why? Why?
Well,
Can
necessarily,
you not record
necessarily.
technicalities?
I mean, we don't know.
Well, let's record some technicalities and find out.
So actually, my assumption here is that it is still based on FR. But the question that I would have for you, Blaine, on this is, in a situation where you have a selected playback headphone that's been accounted for in the sound demo, say that particular headphone rolls off in the bass, but the recorded headphone does not. Does that not present a problem?
Because distortion will rise.
Yeah, exactly. Say your playback headphone is like a Grado, where the bass roll off's like really high or something like that. And you're trying to play back a DCA stealth.
Well, forget itself. What if you're trying to play back a Campfire Cascade on a Grado? And the answer is
exactly.
that hunk of distortion.
Yeah.
There's
well, there's not even distortion. It's like those frequencies there's frequencies you just don't get. Like,
I mean, you can EQ up the bass on a Grado.
To what level?
Well, that's where it's limited by distortion, right?
Yeah.
This is true of anything that rolls off. This is true of anything in general. Like, to make this well, you would probably start with a fairly limited pool of common, suitable playback headphones. Like, no one's saying that you should be able to use, ear pods for this.
Right.
But, if you have an HD 580 or 58X or an HD 600, or if you have I don't know, a Moondrop Chew or a Crinacle Red by Red, then then you have something where that's definitely going to be able to reproduce anything that you want to play back, right? It's not going to distort at a safe or sane level. it's
Right.
going to be able to mimic whatever.
So it has to be still selected for to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I was
Well, and
thinking,
it has to be because we have to be able to measure them, right? And we have to know that the devices
Yeah.
are suitably
so
low
we can
variation.
actually control that. I mean, and there is, there's of course the issue of people selecting headphones they don't necessarily have just because those are the only ones available. But I was thinking the other side of it is the other side could be if you just take a look at what those common headphones measure like and create a compensation based on that on an average, something like that.
So this is something that I've talked. Did I talk to you about this or Constantine?
So I talked to Constantine about this. So
Okay.
maybe you talked. Maybe I got the roundabout.
So like
conversation.
the idea of we know what the rough average
Yeah,
of
yeah,
headphone FR looks like, and it basically looks like a light V, right?
Yeah.
Should we default all of our recordings to that? And the answer there is probably yes.
Well, you mean like the compensation?
So if I have a binaural headphone or other audio system playback web application,
Yeah.
what should if someone doesn't select a headphone, if I still let them hit play, should the default compensation be the average headphone?
Yeah. Exactly.
And the answer there, in my opinion, is no. Actually, I think it should be you have to minimum specify: is it an earbud? Is it an actual in-ear headphone? Is it an over-ear? Because that gives us something that's a bit more stratified and more precise. But I think that once you have the categorization set, I think that's probably the right way to do it. And I imagine that's what Constantine is of the opinion of, because in general, Constantine is right.
All right, Crinacle. Your thoughts?
Well, I feel like it's so much work just to pander to the lowest common denominator that I just don't want to do it anymore.
Based.
Well, Crinical's solution is to just tell people
why
that
are
you
we
can
why are we
see
doing
sound.
so much just to get someone's opinion on like I like IEM because bass bigger.
Well, wasn't your contention or somebody's contention that sound demos are just FR with more steps?
That too, yes. Why even proceed like that, right?
Well, I mean, you could make recordings of them though. Like, it doesn't have to. Like, if there is a technicality there, surely you could hear it.
Yeah,
No.
Maybe. I don't know.
Do you not think you could record technicalities?
Could we? I mean, if the microphone doesn't pick it up, then and the human ear picks it up, I don't know. Like all of that just roots back to like the technicalities exist and what causes them, or
you have to dive into
or
the
is it just
pseudoscience
an
world at some
artifact of frequency response and yada.
So certainly we could test that to. Well, I think we could we could come up with something where we could determine if we can capture it. But there's the other aspect of say you have like a playback equipment that has balanced armature timbre, for example, in the technicality sense, right? And then you have a sound demo where it's just a pure dynamic driver. Does the playback of that take on balanced armature timbre? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I especially given that for a lot of this stuff and the way that and it's partially Crinacle's fault here.
I think the question also goes into a different direction. Is that let's say if you're listening to balanced armature drive on a balanced armature set, does the BA timbre stack?
So it gets meaningfully worse. So
my point
it's
a nice
more
thought
though,
exercise.
Like is more along the lines of like if because you can't get a consistent answer from different people, right? Does this create an additional problem, or does it mean that the problems don't exist? Because like I don't know. I was thinking, we get the common way to sort of think about headphones is okay. And we saw it even with the Red, right? Where it's like everyone's like, yeah, this tonality seems great, but its technicalities aren't meaningfully better than even headphones within the same price tier of under $100 or whatever, right?
But it doesn't have BA timbre.
Well, that's certainly
that's a win.
That's a win. But it seems like that's a key element of the way people judge headphones. Regardless of what contributes to that perception, or if there's any truth to it, or if it's all pseudoscience or whatever, right? It seems like that's a key element of that. And given that people are going to care about different things, I feel like it's almost an impossibility to say, for example, this this one has better soundstage, or I want to evaluate it on the soundstage headphone, or I want to evaluate it on the detail headphone, etc. I don't think people can really agree on what those things are. So to try and say we're going to
I think
capture
there's some headphones where, for technicalities, people agree that they are
better or worse is all you can do, is what I'm saying.
acceptable.
Yeah, I think you could do better or worse. I don't think you could get all that more nuanced than that in a sound demo. But we have yet to test it, so.
But what we're saying is, we're all going to test it, and we're all going to do it if it's good, except for Crin, because he doesn't like poor people.
Is it worth the effort? Because hey, look, I'm open with implementing great ideas. This is not one of them.
Listen, you win some, you lose some. I'm pleased just to have, even if it cost me my finger, got you on board on the DF compensation thing. So
it makes sense. It makes sense. Let's do a down what's called the down tilt sloping thing on the graph itself. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. I mean, I just call it, like, what I just think of it is like speaker equivalency, right? Like, if you look at how it's speaker measure,
and that's what makes it more elegant, right? Yeah, I completely agree.
Okay, so I do have a question on this one specifically. Should I hide the straight line from the compensation, from the baseline compensation?
yes.
So I hide it and only show the tilted one.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Just the tilted FR? Or
so
what?
no straight line. All right, sure.
So you know how it looks.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying like just to completely remove the flat line across and only show the tilt. Okay.
I would strongly recommend that.
Yeah.
All right. I can do that.
Oh God, Redacted is going to do his shtick again.
Who?
You know who.
Is this in the chat?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I have to catch up with what's going on in the chat.
Who's redacted? Oh. Okay.
All right.
Hey,
I honestly can't see what you're talking about. So.
Oh, someone said that Shurer is going to do his shtick, but like ignoring the fact that literally it could rain and Shurer will do his shtick. Like, that's why he's uninteresting.
It's Tuesday.
But for me, it was Tuesday.
Yeah, but no, I like this is why I've been open to the idea. I've just had the the thought process that, like, if I brought this to my parents, would this make sense? But I guess there's also
but
the
if
reality...
you brought headphone fandom to your parents, would it make sense?
Yeah. Well, so that's the other side of it, is that.
But I feel like that there should be some level of not to say barrier of entry, but at least, like, we shouldn't dumb things down to the point where it just doesn't make sense anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I did meme on the whole, like, bar graph thing, and it does make sense, but at the same time, it's so, like, in terms of the detail that it's showing is so low resolution to the point where it might actually backfire, where people say, like, well, if the bass, the mids, and the treble have the same line on the bar graph, it's good, that kind of thing. Even though on the actual full measurement, it looks the differences might be a lot worse. For example, that there might be, like, weird peaks and dips, but when you just condense everything into, like, one average bar graph, it looks nice in a way.
So here's my thoughts on the bar graph thing. Like, I don't actually think we should have bar graphs. What I think we should have...
but it is dumbing down an FR to the point where it's so intuitive and yet so undetailed.
Okay, but so here's the thing. Isn't that true also of describing something as having a sound signature? which everyone in the
It
community tends to
Well,
do.
if you
it
guys
is.
remember
It
those
is.
old lists where there was all the different IEMs ranked on Headphone, where the guy had next to every single one of them V-shaped, et cetera, et cetera. And to a certain extent, Chronicles thing has that as well. This is just a visualization of that.
Oh yeah, I
Well,
have it.
and
Yeah.
no, but here's the thing. I don't think we should visualize that. I think we should just have the descriptor. Like, you can just
Yeah,
make
you
a
could.
function
Yeah,
that says
yeah,
this is a V-shaped IEM.
yeah.
This is a warm IEM. This is a dark IEM. And that's what I
So
think would be better.
literally what I have been doing for the last 7 years.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, I'm sorry to surprise you, Kryn, but sometimes you do have good ideas.
Oh
But
dear,
you're
my
also
God.
what you're also saying though is to like I mean I kind of agree with the bar graph thing, but you're also saying that there's a way to do this in a programmatic fashion where it just spits out the result.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well, and I think
that's
that's
the
what we
one
should do.
that's the one you show to your parents, right? You say, "Hey, this is how
Yeah.
this headphone sounds."
Well, no, because your parents still
Actually,
don't care about what a dark headphone is, because we know that your parents don't care what dark means. Audiophiles use dark. Normal people say, does it have bass? Does it feel good? Happy.
Yeah, that's fair.
wait,
I
yeah,
have
yeah,
studies
actually,
to point to for that.
okay,
But you get the
I
idea.
kind of
Yeah.
have an idea of how we can make it like we can program this, where just take the graphs and then we kind of match them up based on the tilt and the
I
relative
actually
bass
have
boost.
I have math for this, but I don't think I'm allowed to share this yet. We should talk off camera
Oh,
because
okay.
we'll need to talk with our programmers about that. But I am
Right.
working on math specifically for that.
All right, give it to me because if it's not your programmers, then it's probably my programmers, and based on how things are going right now, I think mine's gonna be faster.
Oof. Oof.
Wow, shots fired. Shots fired.
Brutal.
Yeah. But okay.
Hey, but I'm happy to automate that because if I had to do it manually, it kind of just
No,
it's just a whole thing.
no, that would be horrible.
Well, I mean, you
But no,
kind
I
of did
think
it manually for every one that you input, right? Already.
Yeah, like right now, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll have further conversations about the tilting and whatnot off camera and what we represent for new people. I think we've been going for 2.5 hours. It's probably late there in Germany.
Andrew's a coward and doesn't have the endurance for long streams.
I do, but it's also, well, if Crinacle
No.
has time, we could go for another 15 minutes if you guys like.
I don't want to hold you on here. There were a couple of things that people said in chat that we didn't get a chance to address.
Okay, let's
But-
address them. Let's address them. I'm just catching up on the chat now.
So a lot of these were said forever ago, so I'm having to scroll back up. One that I saw that was pretty... Okay, well, one that I wanted to get to crit actually was someone wants a Dioko Red.
Okay.
Is that in the office?
What as in like what? Put a subwoofer with a planar? I mean, that's kind of in the works, actually.
Sick.
Yeah, but it is
This is
kind
how
of hard.
the new hype train gets started. You
Yeah,
better
but-
release it
but-
at like $600.
No, the problem with IAM development, right, is that people always assume that it's just like, oh, this guy is just pressing a button on the desk. So it's like, why does he keep pressing the button? Or it's like, why isn't he pressing the button enough? And I'm like, I don't like it's not easy, man. People can throw out ideas, but it's not gonna happen like overnight. So yeah,
Right.
I mean, there's a multitude of different things that are in progress right now. Like one of the other things that I can like that's always been in the works but still hasn't really gotten a lot of fruit is the vibrator. I'm still working on that, but
Pardon me?
no context given. That's all you get.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Project,
Well, that's...
project vibe.
Is someone actually making the bass butt plug? Is it actually going to be real?
Jesus Christ.
No,
dude.
not I actually maybe. I
What-
should talk to my suppliers about that.
What has this become?
This is what happens when you let me on the stream. This is
Oh,
a
God.
dire mistake.
Yes.
Um,
Let's take a turn away from that. There was other questions from the chat.
yeah. So someone was like, Brandon said, sorry, when will you have a listening panel of 20 listeners for IEM testing in order to dethrone the IEM target and standardize crins? And I
Well,
thought that might be
that's
interesting to you, Andrew, because we've actually been talking about,
yeah.
should we do some listening
Well,
tests? Because we have like an office of people.
yeah, we have enough people, and there's a couple things. One is there's the Chrono has normal people try headphones, and we could send a pair down to him to do a video on that. Just not controlled, nothing, just pure. Okay, which one do you guys like better, right? So that's the very that's the lowest hanging fruit there for that one, and has no real bearing on you know the repudiation of Harmon IE 2019.
Well, but I mean,
However,
we could do it a little bit more formal.
so
Like
this is
if
what
we
I'm saying
level match
is
them.
yeah, this is what I'm saying is we can do the more thorough listening experiments with. We have enough people now in various different places where we can. I don't know. I'd say we could probably do it across like 20 people.
Yeah, that's plenty. I
That
think
would be
that's
enough.
more than some of the
Yeah,
stuff.
it's more than yeah. So we could do that, but then also there's the possibility of doing a formal like invited one, right? With a panel of a certain size. But I think that one we would need, I think we'd
Where
have
would
to,
we? So we would just get a bunch of people from the Pacific Northwest to show up.
yeah, that's like in person kind of stuff. Go to a local university, like Corinne was saying, something
Yeah.
like that. So I see it as kind of like there's three different things, and they're not mutually exclusive. We could do all of them. It's just a matter of what gets done first.
Yeah, no, I would think that'd be quite cool.
Yeah.
And Corinne still needs to get someone's thesis published, and he can probably tuck that into that.
Sure. But I'm trying to match Harmon now, so I was thinking like 200 respondents. Maybe that's too optimistic.
I mean, 200 would be like. Here's the thing:
You
more
don't even
people is
need.
never a problem. It's just a lot of work.
Yeah, you don't even need 200 for it to be more. What was it for IE? 29 for
10, 15.
well they did
Like that.
yeah, and then they had an internal panel, right? So
But I don't want. But here's the thing: is that I don't want to. I'm not satisfied with just beating Harmon IE 2017. I want to match Harmon AEOE 2013.
right, okay. Well, that's
So
That's
you're setting a
tall
high
order, yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna need to pay off a lot of people. Maybe they can just accept cookies and they'll just be on their way.
You make
It's,
cookies,
it's like a it's like a blood donation drive, but with IEMs.
dude. I want Corinne cookies now.
Is there
All
a
right,
collab
so
that works for that?
so Bash asks Corinne, Munich is a show for millionaires who don't care about prices. What does Corinne think about some of the equipment prices at the Munich show compared to the sound quality price to performance ratio?
I'm rolling my eyes a lot. I mean, look, most of the things there are just like cables and turntables, and the speakers were interesting because again, transducer first approach. But everything else was like, yeah, DACs and streamers, and I'm just like, get me back to the headphone world.
Did
So
you
we're not going to see red cable risers.
did you see the massive horn speakers that like look like science experiments?
Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah. I looked at that.
God,
A lot of people told me they sounded like ass. I mean,
I've
people that
never
I
heard a good
trust,
one.
not
I
not
would
not like
imagine.
people, not like old people, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those sorts of designs are almost always all spectacle, no sound, or at least no sound if you're lucky.
Yeah.
This is why we all buy Genelecs. Not sponsored.
I
Captain
wish.
Mark says, "Spicy take. Make a cluster of targets and judge IEMs according to adherence to the closest one." I think that's interesting.
Isn't that kind of what we've wanted for Harmon over ear? Like just basically a publication of the segment, like actual use of the segmentation research.
Yeah, but so what he's saying is that, at least I understood Captain Mark, do it automatically. So like
Oh yeah, so it automatically falls
when
into
you're
the
showing the slant line, it shows the slant line that is closest to this one.
yeah,
And
that's
it
a cool idea.
says this is a base head IEM.
Yeah.
This is a,
This
whatever.
cluster 2, or whatever.
Yeah. Cluster C or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that was what I was suggesting. I mean, isn't that the math that you and your developers were purportedly trying to do?
Well,
Well,
slightly.
actually, yeah, no, I was trying to make a sound signature math. Like doing that would actually be easier than this.
Yeah. So you just do it like what the like for example if I like IMA and then you see which tilt and which base boost matches it the most.
So what's great
And
about
then
this too, though, is that it kind of helps with that idea of the default way that people read graphs is not just this one particular cluster.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, so I mean that'll be a great database as well. Like you have IEMs and then it's like this is closest to how many dBs of tilt and how many dBs of base, and therefore it is V-shaped, for example. So the guys who are more experienced will look at the tilt and the base boost values, and then the layman will look at the sound signature that was generated out of it.
Yeah. Well, I agree about that. I think my understanding of Captain Narc's thing was, so, we're talking about having a target line, right? But, instead of having a default target line, he's saying, we know that there is variations in preference, like Android maybe has a preference or whatever, or, maybe it's clusters from the segmentation paper or whatever. But we know that there's these subgroups who have different preferences. Some want a lot more base, some want a fair bit less base. So maybe what we should be doing is saying, the default comparison line that people get is the one that's closest to the headphone, and then it gets identified as that sort of subtype.
And it makes it easier to judge the headphone relative to its cluster.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting idea. I mean, I'm not sure I would make that the default mode, but like I think that's a really interesting idea.
Yeah. So not in default mode, but yeah, the clustering idea, I think that works out.
Yeah.
So it is kind of just like like the whole ranking list system. I was trying to make it signature agnostic in a way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
have like this is a good base heavy IEM. This is the shit base heavy IEM, for example.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
I can see that happening, but the problem is getting that implemented, and I don't think my developer is that talented.
Well, I mean, all you need to do there is to do a regression on each of them and see which target correlated the most.
You have to understand that my developer is not an audiophile.
Well, yeah, but
He's
does your
just
developer understand what a linear regression is?
I don't know. I barely understand what regression is.
Okay, so at some point we're gonna have to do high
Yeah.
school math with Blaine.
No, I'm not.
Someone needs to do that.
I'm just joking. But yeah, it's gonna be hard to implement. That's for sure. So it's gonna take like maybe a couple of months, maybe 4 or 5.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
then you'll still probably be ahead of us given our track record, but
Oh,
I'll
God
try
damn
to
it.
beat you.
Would you like to buy or rent my software?
Sadly, no. That's something that has been internally discussed, but no. In fact, our offer is probably going to be the converse when the time comes.
Is it? Are you really gonna offer something better than what I have right now?
That's the goal. That's the goal. That's why it's
Go.
taking so long.
All
We
right.
want it. We
All
want
right.
it to be really big and strong and just punch you in the face.
Please,
Who's
please get it faster because it's lonely being the only public database of 5128
actually Jude's
measurements.
working on one as well.
Wait, Jude's working on one?
In his
Yeah, Jude's working on. I hear, but he's also on the whole thing about like he wants to get it perfect and he wants to do the MDEX score thing as well. And he's refusing to publish any data until he gets it absolutely perfect, which is also another struggle, which means that he's not actually publishing anything. And like I said, guys, I'm the only public database of 5128 measurements. What's going on? It's
Listen,
lonely. It's
Well,
lonely being the guy.
Actually,
give
you're
us
in
a
the.
moment.
Are you in the beta? I'm not
Well,
sure if he's in the beta.
No. No.
Right. We
Okay.
didn't invite him to the beta because we were like, oh, it'd be awkward. But then now we're talking to him
We're
about it.
talking to
It's
him
even
about
more
it.
awkward.
I'm a competitor.
Do you want to be in the beta for the thing?
Sure. I can give
No
give
issues.
feedback
Yeah.
and
All right.
not sabotage it.
I would appreciate if you didn't sabotage it. Andrew, can you talk to Kyle about getting Crin in?
Yeah.
I
will.
actually don't remember Crin's email off the top of my head.
No, he's in our Discord. So
Well, he's in our Discord, but he has to do the email thing
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah,
non-disclosure
yeah.
agreement that we've both
Yeah.
violated on this stream.
well, you more than me,
Okay.
but yeah.
Well, no, you more than me.
So technically, I didn't sign that.
Well, technically, I didn't sign it either. We're the
So
only
we're
two people who
good.
aren't NDA'd.
um, but yeah, no, we'll get that sorted out.
Sure, I'll be happy to.
Cool. Um,
It will give us control of all of your existing IP, just FYI. But I don't think that's a
Oh
big
no.
sacrifice.
wow, wow. Okay. At the risk of, or to avoid the risk of further NDA breaches, here's a comment that I find kind of funny.
Yeah.
Maybe Crin can respond to this, but Moondrop and Truthia are great, but can't stand Crinacle's tuning. I think he's deaf in the upper mids. His IEMs have always seemed shouty and always have a hole in the mid bass. Just my opinion. So the funny thing about that is that
Oh, I
this
always love people who just like throw out the worst insults and be like, you know what, it's just my opinion. I think you're a cunt. That's just my opinion.
but you get why that's funny, right? Because like your tuning is specifically less ear gain.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing that you're stumping for with all of this stuff, right? So I mean, it's funny because like you could have that same critique of almost every single Moondrop IEM.
Yeah.
Well, no, much more so with
More-
all the other
That's what I'm saying. More so. Like the variations.
I mean, you'll always have people disliking a specific kind of tuning. I wouldn't call them deaf because of that, but you do you. Your social like intelligence is like that,
just I
Fucking
just thought it
hell.
was funny. Yeah. What does this say?
Yeah.
The validation for auto description calculation can be Crinacle's personal description versus the calculators to get the calculation with the least delta error. I don't know what that means.
No, that makes sense. So what he's saying is, for Crin's auto description thing,
Oh, like
the algorithm should be tested against his descriptions in his list
to see
so that
what,
it matches his descriptions.
Yeah.
Ah.
Actually, and this is stuff that we've gone back and forth about many times with headphones that we think of as, we might think, oh, this one's bright, and then we go, actually, wait, HD800S comes to mind, where, I think the consensus, we went back and forth on that one a few times, I think.
I mean, my consensus is that overall it's downward sloped, but there is a treble spike.
But there was a peak, yeah. But if you ask, many of us, people will refer to it as being bright because of that treble peak. But at the same time,
perception is tricky.
It is, yeah. So, but then in a sense, it's like, well, what's the correct thing there? Like if you're going to apply a
one
sound
that
signature,
makes you happy.
No, but if you were to apply a sound signature to HD800S based on data, and it didn't necessarily grok with the general consensus that people have of that headphone,
Well, I think that's an example of where we use that as part of the sanity testing, right? Like that's what I've done when I have been trying to develop this stuff.
Yep.
That's what I'm sure Crin will do. Like if you have a model that says this sounds like this, and everyone disagrees, then your model's wrong.
Yeah.
And all models are wrong sometimes, but the question is how much error you're willing to tolerate.
Yeah.
And probably almost any model for this is going to get overfitted a bit for the more widely known headphones. But I mean, that's inevitable, right? Like, nobody wants a model that says that HD 650 is bright, even if it's otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. I think it gets more tricky when there are situations like that where it's like maybe a peak is the deviation is so narrow, right? But it is so offensive that that's the only thing that people are thinking about.
FC Construct says that's how the guy beat Magnus Carlsen at chess. What?
What?
Do you guys know what he was talking about? Why was Caleb suddenly talking about chess?
I don't know.
Explain yourself. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm now on that train.
The butt transmitter.
Oh
what?
My god.
What do you mean
that
the
one.
butt transmitter?
That one. There's a whole thing. I mean, it's allegedly a butt transmitter.
What do you mean an alleged butt
like,
transmitter?
This stream has gone off the rails. I just have to say.
All right, let's go over to let's cut to a different question. What's your favorite part of your job?
This is addressed to who?
I think it's all of us.
favorite part of the job?
I think the favorite part right now that I appreciate more based on my friends is the fact that I don't have to answer to anyone.
Hmm.
Like no boss, you know.
Yeah, I envy
So
that.
yeah. So I'm not a corporate slave. I can kind of take any day that I want off, even though I actually kind of work all 7 days of the week. But it's nice, you know, to have the control
Unlimited power.
that I don't even use.
I mean, but that's the thing. Power that you don't have to use is the best kind of power. What about you, Andrew?
It's a good question. I think hmm.
Doing what you love. That's a cliched answer, right? But it is true.
There, the way the answer is, what I'm. It's not about my favorite part of the job. It's the parts that I. Yeah, I don't know if I should say that.
Wait, what?
I was thinking the parts that I tolerate, but no.
Bruh.
I can tell you. I can tell you it's more that I have very strong least favorite parts of the job, and those are.
Oh, do
No,
tell.
those are things like. Well, no,
Implicate your
those are things.
employers right now.
No, it has nothing to do
It's
with that.
okay. Andrew's
It's
probably asleep.
yeah,
Oh.
I'm chained to the desk usually. No, it's it has to do with like if you say I come out with a video that gives X opinion about a product, right? Good or bad.
Right.
Then that gets taken and like twisted and then misrepresented somewhere else without the rest of the context. And then that becomes the narrative. You've probably seen this
Yeah,
stuff as well.
I mean that's a problem with content creators in general. I
Yeah.
go through that all the time as well. But
Yeah.
it's one of those like, yeah, you know, it's part of the job. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's annoying. My favorite part of the job is probably it's probably the learning and the research aspect and going through
The
like for example,
learning,
yeah, the
Knowledge.
the
yeah, exactly.
knowledge.
Well, so to me, I mean,
Lamborghinis.
basically the academic side of all of this stuff is and I didn't I don't have the background in this stuff academically, and so the more I learn, the more I read, etc., the more complete the picture gets for me. I love that stuff, and also like for example, that paper, the teal paper, is the one that you sent me, Blaine. Stuff like that is super interesting, and when I find weird connections with my own background, that's probably my favorite side of things.
The weirdly philosophical side of audio.
Well, no, specifically to do with perceptual theory,
Yeah.
and that's what I wrote my dissertation on. And when I find stuff that is in this industry that relates to that, it's like, oh, that's cool.
So, by the way, credit to Taryn Tennyson. I just realized that it's Taryn, but with a Y, which probably means that that's just Taryn trying to spy on us.
It's not.
No,
I know his burner YouTube is not that.
Well, now I'm going to be paranoid forever.
He does pop up in live streams from time to time, but I think he's in bed.
I hope so.
Yeah.
He's a growing boy. He needs to sleep. So,
the context there is that he's also in Europe right now.
but my favorite part of my job, at least, is probably the opportunity to experiment. Like having resources here to do things like, I mean, like one of the things I have here is some tiny little electret microphones that I'm going to be using for an improved measure of acoustic impedance for the ear sim thing, right? Like that's something where just being able to say, I want to answer a question or I have a curiosity, I have a good reason for finding this out, and then just going and doing it is really interesting. That's sort of the most rewarding thing for me right now. Although, honestly, I enjoy the folks who I'm getting to work with, including folks who aren't direct coworkers, but folks like Crin. I have a lot of fun doing streams like this.
Mm-hmm. The direct coworkers, you take them or leave them,
Well, I mean, it varies. I mean, one of them keeps talking about chest butt plugs.
You're not referring to me, I hope.
No, you. Well, I mean, maybe.
Deliberately trying to avoid that topic. Jeez.
No, I meant Caleb.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's I'd say that's actually a good place to end the stream because I really do actually have to go now. 3 hours later.
Can we get a Crin sign off on this?
Can we get some final thoughts from each of us here?
Final thought.
Yeah. And don't say bye, Red.
Wait, why do I have to give final thoughts? Wasn't the stream started out as like, all right, let's talk about Red?
Yeah, actually, and I spicily called it Project Red post-mortem to continue to mine the Crinacle vein there.
I'm dead.
So
final thoughts. I mean, final thoughts is just Red was a project. Red was a long-standing project, and it took as long as it did because I wasn't satisfied with version 1, and then version 1 went to version 2, and version 2 went to 3, and all that. So when people talk about oh, it's just a retune, to a certain extent that's true, but at the same time it's retuning is not as easy as it sounds. It's not a button on a disk that I just press whenever I feel like it. It's a long, involved process that involves. I have like 7 to 8 prototypes with me right now, and this is already just after exchanging frequency response graphs, crossover plots, and everything else like over and over, just so that we can reduce the number of samples that are being shipped over. So 7 to 8 prototypes. Honestly, if we didn't do all of that, it would have been easily up to 50 prototypes. And you know how prototypes can be expensive. I joked around like before the rate came out, and I said like, since technically it's not sold, this is technically a $40,000 IEM.
Yeah, that's
yeah. So I mean, that's just the final thoughts. I mean, I hope everyone enjoys the red. I know it's not going to be for everyone, which is why the blue also exists, as well as every other collab. I'm just taking the opportunity to show everything right now. So thank you. I mean, thanks to everyone who supported me on and bought the red or any of my other collabs, because it helps put food on the table and allows me to do all the other projects like the 5128 measurements without me having to really worry too much about the finances. So thanks to everyone.
Awesome.
Oh, that's a wholesome ending. I was expecting you to just say fuck off.
Oh yeah, and fuck off.
Yeah. And Blaine, final thoughts from you?
We should have guests more often. You should have guests more often.
Well, that's the intention, yes.
And Crin.
That is, yes. I was actually originally hoping to have Jamie on as well, but I wasn't sure if you were going to make it, so I thought it'd be more fun like that. So maybe next time we can also have some other folks from the community as well.
Hell yeah, let's do a Jamie stream.
Yeah, but it might have to be during. Yeah. Now, well, I have it now, so.
Yeah, see, I'll just need to get a VTuber.
Yeah.
All right, I'll tell Corey about that, and we'll get that.
Okay. So final thoughts from you.
What was it?
Final thoughts from you.
No, my final thoughts was just like I enjoyed the stream. It was a good time. I think this was a fun use of a Sunday afternoon. I enjoyed being with my friends.
Okay. Also wholesome. Okay. Final thoughts from me. I think Red is a great product, and I recommend it, and I think you guys should all buy it. I think
it doesn't also look like shoelaces. I don't know what Caleb is talking about.
No, I get it.
Oh, the faceplate.
It does look like shoelaces.
So to answer his question very briefly before I conk out again, we did think about putting a mother of pearl faceplate, but but it was quite dark. Like the mother of pearl faceplate was red as well, but it was quite dark and it was hard to see. And we did a small test run by asking people like, hey, do you like the, as he calls it, the shoelace faceplate, or do you like the mother of pearl faceplate? And it was very 50-50, like surprisingly 50-50. So at the end of the day, we just went with the one that was easier to make, which was just the shoelace one, because it was fully 3D printed and with a resin fill on top. Whereas the mother of pearl faceplate, we had to order in an actual like foam panel, like sheet, and then make it from there, which was substantially more expensive. So if the opinions of both were 50-50, of course I'm going to go with the cheaper one. It's just business.
There, that explains it. All right, guys, we've been live for 3 hours, so I think we're gonna cut the stream there. Thanks to everybody for joining. Big thanks to, of course, Mad Economist, otherwise known as Blaine Lacrosse, for all of his technical input, Madbot, as you will.
And hot takes.
Well, I mean, they're hot, sensible
Mild-
takes. Let's go with
mildly
that.
spicy.
Yeah. And of course, big thanks to Crin for joining us as well.
No problem.
And we'll chat with everybody soon. Now is also when we plug headphones.com. Big thanks to headphones.com for making all of this possible, for making all of the measurements possible, for sponsoring Crinacle to make Project Red possible. And if you guys want more additional data on just anything to do with headphones, measurements, etc., check out the audio files up on headphones.com. Check out our forum linked in the description below, and our Discord, of course, also linked in the description below. And I think that's basically it. So I will see you guys in the next one.
Bye, Red.
Yes.
Bye, Red, and bye-bye.